Welcome to the Weekend Must Watch on Intercut, the weekly show going through the movies, TV, and entertainment that people just can't cut away from. I'm your co-host Arturo Zurita, and joining me, I'm sure he's got some friendship bracelets to give me. He didn't go to the concert, but he can still stay at home and get me some. What'd you make for me?
All I got is my Camp Yellow Jackets lanyard
Okay, that's a good one.
bracelet from South by Southwest.
I'm about to say, can't give me some Livestrong bracelet, bro. We passed those times, but we are in the era of the Eras tour. Zach did
Ah,
not go make it out because he hates Swifties. I know he's a Beyonce fan. He's got his tickets for the Renaissance one,
Beehive all the way.
but bro, I I'm not a secret fan. I've been public about it. If you look at my old A to Z videos, I used to have that poster of her back in my old room. I might have to go back to my old room to replace it with one of these. Uh, the Queen, bro. I don't know how else to put it. The pop star that has been crushing records when it comes to her tour has now come out and crushed records when it comes to the fall movie season. It was really interesting seeing all of the movies that moved away from her release because there was a point where before she came out, a lot of movies had set their schedules for October, and then the moment
Yeah.
that she announced, everything just like scattered away. And I didn't realize it till I was working on the Let Me Explain for it. But I'm sure if you went to go see anything, you probably heard the fans next door because that's exactly what happened to me in Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yeah, it's like when Barbie was huge and you
Yep,
could show up at the movie theater and know, oh, they are here for Barbie for sure. They're all in pink, matching
decked
pink
out pink.
shirts or whatever. It's got that vibe too, except maybe it's more of like a level of excitement or a demographics vibe. But yeah, there's a lot of energy around the movie, and it certainly was like a huge event. I know you talked about it a little bit on the video you just posted to Let Me Explain, but what did you make of the whole, I guess, minor controversy, if you want to call it that, around the people who had the gall to get up out of their seats at a movie theater during a concert film?
I mean, look, you know the Rocky Horror Picture Show, right?
Yeah.
People remember that that's a thing. To me, this is that. They're just not 12 a.m. showings. The problem is that they're it's not people at midnight at a theater going crazy. It's in the middle of the day. They're 3 p.m., 5 p.m. if you're getting a rental, whatever it is. And these theaters don't have walls that are like that soundproof. It's like
Mhm.
the Sound of Freedom fellows when they went out and they realized, wow, theaters actually suck, and they suck so bad they started making conspiracies. I think it's just them realizing, like, yo, they're that loud. My personal opinion on it is that for any other type of movie, yeah, you kind of gotta chill.
Yeah.
But let's not act like they're being so much louder than your average Marvel movie. All that's happening is that I guess people are annoyed on the fan base because in any other movie, that movie would still be just as loud. You'd be hearing it. You're just hearing everyone chanting now with it, but the movie would still be as loud. I couldn't hear people at my screening. I heard the movie. Like when I was watching Killers of the Flower Moon, I had made a joke in the video because I had recorded it before we watched it that it was going to be her song "Mean." I
Hmm.
cannot even write this, Zach. Zach, I can't write this. It is during a spanking scene in the movie, in full blast. Her song that's playing is "Look What You Made Me Do." It was such peak. I wasn't even upset. I may be the only person who
Yeah.
had actually kind of amplified in a meme-worthy way my screening for Killers of the Flower Moon. But I
I
am kind
heard
of mixing that,
somebody I heard somebody else heard a bit of anti-hero during Killers as well, which might
bro.
might
Would
be
that be?
fitting. Yeah, right.
Yeah, that'd be pretty good. Imagine like they contrast the drumming in in Killers of the Flower Moon to the
The Robbie
anti-hero
Robertson
808s.
score.
That'd be crazy.
That's the remix.
What do you think about it though?
I mean, I think that, different movies sort of set the template for how they're meant to be watched, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
if you go to a Marvel movie, you're going to expect clapping during some big heroic moments, or when Cap
Exactly.
picks up Thor's hammer. And when you go to, as you mentioned, Rocky Horror Picture Show, there's gonna be participation, or a screening of The Room where they throw spoons at the screen, or RRR. We saw all the clips from some of those jubilant screenings last year where people got up and danced during the big sequences. It depends on the screening, and obviously, like, I shudder at the idea of having my experience with like the amazing new Martin Scorsese film in some way lessened because I hear a bunch of preteens in the room over from me, but I also can't begrudge them from enjoying the film the way that I think it's kind of meant to be enjoyed. Like when I go to a concert, even if it's at a place that has seats, I want to stand because that's how I really feel myself feeling the music and enjoying it the most. And
Yeah.
and I it's obviously not behavior that we want to see carried into most other films, but I
Mhm.
feel like this is a pretty exclusive phenomena, right? Like
Yeah.
maybe we'll get some similar things happening during the Beyonce concert film, but that's again, it's a music movie, and I think it's different than your normal experience at the cinema. Maybe it's that we are both seeing this rise in like
Event.
antisocial or upsetting
Yeah.
behavior in movies, and then this gave people an excuse to get upset about it. But like I think this happening at Taylor Swift is very different from like when I went to Gran Turismo and there was somebody FaceTiming for half of the movie.
Exactly. There's so much garbage things that already happen on a daily basis when you're such avid moviegoers like we are. But yeah, I see. Josh had mentioned stop making sense. Were we gonna stop them from wearing those suits, dude, and bobbing side to side? It's okay. You want to go to these concert films to have fun. And what's interesting is like with a movie like this, and the alternative type of content that they're putting into theaters, I think they're going to be showing more sports. Like that's not new. It's just not as prominent. But there
Yeah.
are fights, there are opera films, and each one is going to have a different audience. And like you were saying, is it really an issue, or is it people who just have a problem with a massive audience coming in? We saw it with Barbie. We weren't offended with it by Barbie. We all were in on the bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
But here it's like I think they would have been just as loud. That if someone is complaining and they're upset because they're all dressed up, you don't say nothing when like Zach just put you come in dressed up as Deadpool, you come dressed up as anything else. I think they were just upset because they didn't get these limited edition bracelets, Zach, and I think for that, haters gonna hate, and yeah. Look, I thought it was a very fun concert film. I think because it's done in the perspective of it being just its shot between them as what's it called? Just a movie in general, not any behind the scenes, not something like what I'm assuming Beyonce's going to do, because they're saying that this movie wouldn't be eligible for awards because it's just a recording of that SoFi performance. Whereas Beyonce's is supposed to be the performance with a little behind the scenes. And I thought the Beyonce one that you did for Netflix, I don't know if you remember the name of that one.
Homecoming,
Like,
I think it was.
probably the way that they built that up, that is a cool way to get a behind the scenes stuff. I wanted to see a little
Yeah.
bit more of that. There's a moment when she like goes under and like is meant to swim across, but there's like a mechanic down below. That would be like probably for another documentary, right? I know she's got like a 3 week streaming deal, so after 3 weeks, she's going to be able to send that off and sell it to a streamer if she wanted to. And at that point, she could add extra stuff if she wanted to,
Right.
any behind the scene things. But as far as the theatrical one, it's just a concert film, and it's the best version of it that it could possibly be. I was not going to pay for those tickets.
Mm-hmm.
I could not pay for those tickets. I couldn't even find those tickets, right? But I think this is a perfect way to be able to have that concert out there for other people. And like I said, I think with sporting events, we see it always with those like Met Opera live events.
Yeah.
I was hearing people talk about what other things could be out there now that we're doing this we're in this new era of like you don't have to work with a studio to get something into a theater. AMC is now distributing it itself. I want to see comedy shows, bro.
Yeah. Well, like the Chris Rock special we got.
But even better than that, because the Chris Rock special, that sunk on Netflix. If
Yeah.
you didn't see it live, like it doesn't matter afterwards. They're also not getting their money's worth because people are already paying that subscription.
Mhm.
But Dave Chappelle, he's got tickets right now that are steep as can be.
Right.
And I know you can't do it at the prime of the tour,
Mm-hmm.
but if you get it towards the end and you release it for like a one night only thing where you live stream it from whatever his like final show is going to be, I think they could also pull a kind of bait and switch. I don't want to promote a bait and switch, but the idea of being able to go see it, the worry being that they're going to release, clips of people recording it because they're not going to get their phones confiscated like they would at a stadium. But I remember watching the Rocky IV director's cut.
Yeah.
And I paid money to go see that. It was a Fathom event. You can't use A-list or anything. And the moment we're sitting there, it opens up with a trailer that it's going to drop on Amazon Prime at midnight. And it's like, why am I here? I could have just seen it at home for and own it. I
Right.
think you could do that for these comedy shows. Like
Totally.
you wait till the last stop. You have a one night event where people can see it in a theater, laugh collectively, and then the next day, if you're worried about it leaking, just have it ready to go somewhere. You know.
Yeah.
So I think there's a
Mulaney
lot of opportunities.
Mulaney's another one who he's probably a big enough name that he could
Perfect.
justify it, and particularly his last special, Homecoming King. I think a lot of people were really
Yeah, that
anticipating
was
that
good.
one because it was his return after a lot of personal struggles and stuff like that. So, and those were hard tickets to get too. I didn't see him when he went
Yeah.
around. So, yeah, maybe Taylor in one way is also just opening up the door to the possibilities of what we can get in the collective theatrical experience, right? Because
Yeah.
seeing a movie in a theater isn't just about seeing a film, it's about seeing something with an audience that's all
There you
there
go. Communal.
invested in the same thing you are.
Yes, sir. I'm excited for it. Metallica did their live concert too, so I can't wait. Intercut coming live to a Dolby Theater near you. The next one that we have is Killers of the Flower Moon, the newest
Yes.
movie from Martin Scorsese that we're going to be doing an entire after credits breakdown. Our Intercut Explains is going to be live right after the show right here. So I just want to know your quick thoughts on it, your theatrical experience. I believe you had the whole Q&A, the whole gang was there?
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky enough to get an early screening that was not just an early screening, but
How
attended
long?
by several of the people behind the film. It was at the Directors Guild of America Theater in New York, which I think
Beautiful.
you got to check out once also while you were in
From
town.
the outside, my man.
Yeah, I mean, this is the only time I've been there and in the presence of Marty Scorsese, which was incredible, and also Thelma Schoonmaker next to him.
Who
Next to
killed it.
him, a bunch of people from the production design and costuming of the film. It was like it was a really intense pleasure to experience, and I think Marty is just so forthright and so disarming in the way that he speaks about it. You know, he feels like he's uh, very open emotionally at this point in his life. He speaks very much from the heart in addressing just his love for film and the amount of work he puts into these stories and what they mean to him. So it's going to be hard for me to not enjoy my experience, given all of that. But I, I think I would have enjoyed it either way, because it is just such a massive movie and such a monumental achievement. I'm really blown away by it. I think there's so much to talk about, so I'm really excited that we're going to dedicate a little bit more time after this live stream to really get into the details of it. But yeah, I mean, I've actually had the chance to see it twice now. I also got to see it on
Nice.
the IMAX at Lincoln Square, which
Okay,
we've talked
tell
about
me.
in the past. And yeah, I mean, it really demands to be seen in a big way. The images are so striking. And I was lucky enough to have a crowd that was really into it. One thing that is nice about living in proximity to New York is that if you want to see a movie with a bunch of people who are going to be invested in it,
Fans?
you
Yeah,
can find those
very true.
screenings. So, it was a screening where everybody applauded for Nicole Kidman before the movie. They applauded when there was the little message from Marty before the film. They applauded for Lily Gladstone and Robert De Niro and DiCaprio and Schoonmaker at the credits as well. So, yeah, I mean, I think to put out a film that's 3.5 hours long and have a room full of jaded New Yorkers sitting wrapped for the entire time, it's a massive achievement. There's no other way around it.
I mean, y'all's guy. It's New York. I was listening to an interview where he's just like, I went to LA. They kicked me out. When I think New York, I think this man. I have a question for you in terms of the IMAX. I know that they were talking about it being optimized, but that some scenes were supposed to be 1:3:3. Now the movie shot very wide, right?
Yeah.
Even wider than the screen would be. Does it go tall? Did you notice? I don't know if you were paying attention to that, because that's my thing on whether I'm going to see it again in Dolby, which I'm like sat because of the soundtrack. But if it's an IMAX and it goes full, might be worth sacrificing my butt for that 3.5 hours. The more
To be
uncomfortable
honest, I can't tell you for sure if it went full. I don't remember it going full,
Okay.
but I was also a little bit closer than I normally like to sit, so it felt full.
Okay. It was a packed screening.
Yeah, it was a practice screening.
I see Josh right here said that he saw it over sees, and he said the aspect ratio isn't changed, which kind of stinks because on IMDb it said it was supposed to go 1:3:3. On the version that I saw, like there wasn't any ratio change that I remember.
Yeah.
You know, like he does, mess with colors and different film stock throughout, which we'll talk in the spoilers. But I don't know, I was kind of curious about that. But if it doesn't change, I personally would still say it's a 3.5 hour movie. We're psychopaths. We're nerds. We watch these movies multiple times. I think the pacing is perfect, but it's still 3.5 hour movie. Your body will feel it. Go for the recliners.
Yeah.
I went to the new AMC recliners that we have over here. They got the butt warmers.
Ooh.
Oh, Zach, I got to take you to these over here, bro.
I'd just be worried about getting so cozy I'd fall asleep. Like, don't give me a blanket on that screening.
But the sound was crisp and clear.
Yeah.
You know, if you were gonna doze off, Taylor would wake you up. But no, it was a fantastic showing,
Yeah.
and I truly believe this is a movie to watch in theaters for the sound, for the visuals, and hopefully you have. I had two women who were sitting next to us, who just kept going, hypocrite. Every time Robert De Niro spoke, they yelled at the screen, hypocrite, and I was vibing with it. I was like, yeah, he's kind of a hypocrite. Every time something was happening with our title characters on screen, they were just yelling, no, don't trust them, don't do it, and just seeing someone as invested, someone who understood it, having seen right after the screening so many people, I don't want to say not get, but take the movie the wrong way, read the movie the wrong way. It's good to watch it with an audience who understands what the movie is showcasing, and that's that big word right there, who the killers of the Flower Moon were.
Absolutely.
Are.
Yeah, it's a slow motion horror movie in some senses. So it's I think there's a lot of people who maybe were hoping to be more entertained, I guess is the word that I'd use.
Like a true crime podcast?
I was wrapped, but like this isn't a celebration. This isn't even like the romantic mob pictures that Scorsese is known for. This is something different, and I think it was completely appropriate and well executed for what he's going for. You alluded to it briefly, but Josh asked if we felt the length. And one of the things that I think is pretty interesting in this whole discussion around like feeling the length is like people are sort of saying that I think some people are afraid to be like it feels long at risk of sounding like they didn't like it. Like it's 3.5 hours long. That's a long chunk of time to do anything. Obviously I think you notice the length, but it's whether or not you're like restless, whether or not you just really want the experience to end. And I think on that level, it was a success for me. I wasn't like plotting my exit from the movie theater or anything. Like I felt my lower back a little bit, but I felt completely immersed in the story and just that it was like such a treat, such a monumental piece of art.
Yeah, but Zach, don't you understand that some of us have bladder problems? Do you not care for the bladder community?
Do you go to the bathroom every 3.5 hours? Like, this is not a problem for me.
I found it funny that it's a 3.5 hour movie, and yet within the first hour, which is still a regular movie length, people overdid it in my theater. A dude got up 3 times within the first 90 minutes. I'm like, gee, we could have been watching Step Brothers.
You broke the seal. Why don't you can't break the seal?
Exactly. You are overdoing it. I think I'm pretty prepped with it. I did not have to go to the bathroom the whole time, but I knew the event I was going in for.
Yeah.
Look, obviously you're going to feel it in your body because it's 3.5 hours. If you're not used to sitting, yeah, we get that. If you have a bladder problem, we understand that. There's not everyone's going to have the ability to watch it in a theater. But if you can, that's obviously who we're mentioning it for. And I thought that it's just perfectly paced. I know a lot of people want it to be shorter. I'm more of the agreement. This is the one that I definitely could have seen as a miniseries because I just wanted to see more chapters of their lives. And with it going to Apple TV and, with all these new iterations that we can come up with through streaming, I would love seeing that. I do have one question for you, and I see it already mentioned in the comments a little bit. But we're going to get it into the spoilers later. Zach, yay or nay on the performance for Brenda Fraser?
I'm thumbs all the way up. I loved it.
I thought it was exactly what it needed to be.
Yes, thank you. I wasn't sure based on your tweet.
No. Okay, people are seeing his performance and making fun of it, not realizing they're making fun of Marty. Marty did not let this man storm into the set. Marty directed him and cast him and had him be the character he's supposed to be as an
Yeah.
outside lawyer. So when you're making fun of him, you're snitching on yourself that you
Yeah.
don't understand how a movie set works, or that you weren't paying attention to the movie and what he was supposed to be. That said though, yes, I thought it was the funniest thing.
Yeah.
Two things could be right. It's exactly what the movie needs, and it's also so hilarious.
Yes, that's the correct take.
No, he was fantastic, bro. He was so good. But yeah, I am excited to get full spoilers into it. Zach went full in on the audiobook. I'm almost done with it, but damn, does it add so much to the story. I don't think you need it. I think it's really just a matter of right now, with it being such a lengthy movie and with so many topics, everyone needs an opinion on this movie. I saw more reviews for this movie from people who hadn't seen it before the movie came out. Like, we couldn't even wait. And I think that speaks a lot to people rushing to conclusions, and I'm really excited for our breakdown on it, because I think a big part of it is just being open to what the movie's trying to tell you, and I think we're going to have a really good breakdown. So stick around for that right after this live stream.
Yeah.
Another one that we have is Anatomy of a Fall. Zach had a couple of thoughts that he had said in his New York breakdown. I technically am going to bring this up in like 10 minutes because I have it in my Chicago breakdown that I'm going to be doing later. But Anatomy of a Fall, I believe, was limited, and it is about to come out this Friday in multiple theaters here in Chicago. So keep an eye out for it, because I know you liked it.
Yeah, I think it's solid. I think the problem is when you talk about a movie like this, which was such a successful film at Cannes, where it got a lot of hype and people were talking about.
It's very big, bro. I did not realize that.
A lot of people are saying, oh, it's not just a contender for the best international Oscar, but maybe even for best picture as well. And now if you're paying attention to film festivals like Arturo and I do, so many of them are bringing over Sandra Hüller to do these like showcases and Q&As and stuff.
Yes.
So like this movie's in a way been crowned as like one of the important films of the year. So maybe like that just put my expectations in a place where I'm just like, yeah, it's good. And it is really solid. It's a very, very compelling courtroom drama. And I love that it really tries to ride the line of like not giving you a satisfying answer, not letting you have an easy opinion on what's going on. They've got like a lot of really, really expert scenes that are where the back and forths just leave you on the edge of your seat. Got probably the best use of 50 Cent music in a film that I've ever heard.
Remix.
But it's I enjoyed it. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. I thought it was pretty compelling. Not to again like put it against these unfair expectations, but like if we're talking about recent French courtroom dramas that like really riveted me, I'd still put Saint Omer above this one. I see
great.
Devesh in the live stream is asking Anatomy of a Fall or Pot-au-Feu, which is
you've been consistent on it.
Yeah, I think France made the right call. I really like The Taste of Things. I'm it might be a simpler movie, but it's one that warmed my heart more. So I don't know. They're both great. I'm not trying to disparage either. And I do think people should check out Anatomy of a Fall. I've been recommending it to people in my personal life. And I just think it's a pretty like easy recommendation because it's pretty satisfying to watch. But yeah, I don't know. Are you with me? Did you like it more, or do you feel a little cooler than I do?
Like you said, people were at the festivals and they were overhyping it. So when it got to you were taking that reaction. I had it skimmed then through you, who gave me the reaction. So I think I came somewhere in the middle. I don't think it's like the most profound courtroom drama out there. I, like you, really like Saint Omer as well. But I did like a lot of what this movie did. I think Sandra Hüller gives a fantastic performance in this, doubled up with her supporting in Zone, which we'll be talking about in a little bit again. But I thought it was a pretty good courtroom drama. I'm looking forward to watching it again. We may have a longer spoiler discussion of it because I've been hearing so many theories. I'm more curious on what people are getting out of it, because like you were saying, this is a film in where it's supposed to be ambiguous and leave it open, and it does a perfect job at that for you to pick it apart. But people are coming up with like these crazy things, and I know you and I have been looking at each other like it's only one of two options, and people are speaking about this like, oh, did you catch the hidden elephant in the back? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I think it's great though. I ended up really enjoying it. I think it's fit. it's fantastically shot in a way where it's almost meme worthy. There are
Yeah.
some shots in here, zoom ins in particular, that I did not expect, but I kind of messed with.
Yeah.
So I would recommend it. Definitely worth the trip to the theater, in my opinion, and we'll definitely be discussing it more.
There's definitely an alternate universe where this would be a great subject for like the film theory channel to tackle or whatever.
For
Just
sure.
like pull on weird threads for it.
Oh, easily, yeah. And again, it's because of how good the direction is and the actors, and it's a pretty tight script as well.
Yeah,
Ooh,
I definitely
wait,
I'd
you know that?
recommend it.
He said Justine Triet was actually asked to be in Saint Omer. Wow.
Oh,
There we
small
go.
world French cinema.
Beautiful. We'll go through some other quick ones that were out. Recently, there was this movie called The Mill that came out on Hulu. Laurel Hari is not just the actor, but like the producer on this. I'm blanking on the production company that he had for this, but I, I saw the production company name, Productions, which is genius. Laurel, Relevant Productions.
Nice.
And that was the
We love
coolest
good
part of the movie, Zach. It's about this dude who is like always busy working, and I believe he had a baby on the way, and he ends up stuck in like this just metal room, or steel room, I should say, a mill room, and he needs to move this gear however many times per day, and he needs to beat everybody else who are in separate rooms, almost like Cube, but he doesn't know how many intervals they're doing, and if he doesn't do as much as the least person, they get kicked out. And it leaves you with all of these threads of what to pull on, and it's trying to make fun of big corporations, even though it's a movie from a big corporation. It is the exact type of streaming Hulu thriller that you would expect. I've been saying I want more dramatic roles from Laurel Hari.
Yeah, we just
This
saw
is
him in We Grown Now,
one of the
which was
best
at
parts.
Chicago, which he's very excellent in.
Uh, yeah, this is more of a thriller. I needed more in the dramatic roles. This was
Ah,
fine for what it was. It was interesting to see him. You know, he had his kicks on, he had the Nikes on, while he was dressed up in a suit. And a lot of the shots are like, they look clean, my dude, but like, I don't need to see the perspective of your shoes front and center. It has interesting ideas, but I don't know if it's executed to the best of its ability. At a certain point, you're following this guy who's feeling miserable and has a lot of agony, and after 15 minutes, you two are just sitting there with that
mm.
misery and that agony. But interesting for what it's worth. You can catch it online over on Hulu. The Burial, you said you had caught, which premiered at TIFF, if I'm not mistaken, and we knew it was going to get flipped for Prime immediately. But tell me
Exactly.
about this one.
It's one of those movies that we always try to avoid at film festivals because we know our time is precious and it'll just be available to us 2 weeks down the line. Available to everybody, in fact, if you have access to Amazon Prime streaming. The Burial with Jamie Foxx and Tommy Lee Jones, as well as Journey Smollett. A bunch of actually interesting actors in smaller parts. Bill Camp, somebody that I like a lot whenever he shows up and stuff. Mamadou Athi, I don't
Yeah.
know how his last name is
Yep.
pronounced. He's always a delight when he shows up
No,
and stuff,
he's
an
great.
up and coming actor.
He's fantastic.
This film is a pretty middle of the road courtroom drama, and those can be pretty satisfying to watch. And this one is as well, largely through the charisma of the performances, most notably in Jamie Foxx, who kind of does like a sort of Johnny Cochran-esque showy lawyer thing in this movie. Here he's defending Tommy Lee Jones against a corporation that's trying to nickel and dime a bunch of lower class people. So there's some racial injustice being fought, and there's some there's some corporate greed being rallied against, and it's all like pretty standard in terms of the beats. It's not
Mm-hmm.
gonna surprise you very much along the way, but it's well executed and it's pretty satisfying. I'm not gonna it's not a film that I think will find itself in like the Oscars race or anything like that, but it's perfectly a perfectly good thing to watch and recommend to like a group of people, especially if you're like looking for something to watch with people who aren't necessarily willing to go watch something that's maybe a little bit more on the artistic side of things.
Mm-hmm.
It's decently entertaining and pretty well written too.
Court one. They were charging those Osage prices, weren't they?
Exactly. The Osage funeral home prices. Yeah.
I see Journey Smollett was in it as well. Another
Yeah.
person who was really good in We Grown Now. A lot of really good elements from We Grown Now. Um,
Showing up in other movies.
showing up in other movies,
Yeah.
exactly. But The Burial out on third before I snoozed. I would be the millennial that this man so eagerly creates in his mind to hate. Old Dads, the Bill Burr comedy about yeah, Old Dads out on Netflix. Zach, you got to make it to the finish line for this one. Tell me why Bill Burr is your favorite comedian.
Well, Bill Burr is a pretty funny comedian at times, and obviously he's got some sort of he has sort of like a cranky persona in some ways,
It's better in stand
but
up.
it works better in stand up. And I
Yeah.
just because I think he's a pretty talented stand up comedian, I just sort of gave him more credit than the trailer seemed to. I didn't think that he would do something so like rote and kind of hacky as this one is, because he's not just the star, he's also the director and the co-writer of Old
Wait,
Dads.
wait, 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 wait. What?
Yeah, I think this is his like feature directorial debut.
What?
And I can't understand why he would go with this like old man mad about woke style script to like enter into that world. It's like so played out and just not, I don't know, like feels
Oh
like
my
the lamest style of comedy. There's an extended bit about trying to get a white guy to rap along with the N word in rap songs, which is like something that Scrubs joked about in like 2002. It's like there's so much here that is like complaining about things that have already had a million jokes written about them, and there's no kind of new way in. The
Yeah.
company that he works for tries to like rebrand itself as like carbon neutral and gender neutral. Like, what does that even mean in the context of this? It's so tired and played out. And even though like I like all these actors that are involved, even
Mhm.
beyond Bill Burr and Bobby Cannavale, like I like Bokeem Woodbine and Katie Aselton, and even our boy Paul Walter Hauser has a small role in this, which
I woke up and I thought I had a fever dream. So I just went back to bed when I saw the man.
yeah, like I don't know who allowed him to be in something this bad, because it's
He must be a fan.
yeah, it did not work for me at all.
Yeah. Okay. Dude, that explains a lot that he directed it. Wow. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
Old
LaShawn
Dad's
is
out on
saying in the
Netflix.
live stream that F is for Family is Bill Burke's best work for her. I
The
agree.
animated series?
Yeah, I like the Netflix animated series that he also created. The
Yeah,
comedy
you've had
works
that
a
as a pick
lot better
before.
there.
Nice. All right. Well, Old Dads out on Netflix if you wanted a series about old dads being very grumpy. Other than that, I did have Fall of Usher here, but I don't know if you finished it. We just finished it last night, and I will say this: the biggest praises that I was giving it, um, there is a pattern that this thing does, dude, and that is he has sold out to Netflix, who is already his home. Zach, there is a moment where they just spend time cutting cakes to see whether it's cake or not. Someone's in the hospital and they're looking for something to watch and they watch Gerald's game.
Really?
By the time it hit 5 of those, it really started tainting a show that I
Weird.
highly recommended
Yeah.
just a couple weeks ago. It got pretty bad. I still enjoy the story, how it's shot, the characters, all of that is really cool. But I just had to come back to mention that. Why? I don't want to see that. This reverse engineering of it being just product placements and product placements for the streaming service you're already on. You don't need to sell me on the streaming service I'm already on. Just wanted to vent about that, but I don't know if you caught any of this yet.
I only caught the first episode, and I honestly sometimes have a hard time getting into the tone of the Mike Flanagan shows, just because they're so like dread-inducing. It's like, oh well, I don't want to hang out here for another hour.
Yeah.
But I've heard episode 2 is also like
Oh, it's
one of
yeah,
the
that's where it kicks it in.
yeah. So I'll get there. He is set after the show to make the big move over to Amazon. So are you saying you're not looking
Oh,
forward to Mike Flanagan's Amazon shopping lists.
Stop, bro. He's probably gonna do that. Damn. I hope that being in a new place will come with new ideas because he's been very, very. I don't want to say the word complacent, but he's definitely been very comfortable over at Netflix. Because when you look back at it, it's a lot, dude. Hush wasn't, I think, a Netflix movie, but it was hosted there. Hill House, Gerald's Game, Bly Manor, Midnight Mass, Usher. Like, there's a lot. I think there's even some that are still missing here that he produced. Yeah, I want a new change of pace. I just want to see him shake things up. But yeah, Fall
A different
of the
pitch.
House of Usher over on Netflix. Looking ahead at the week, we have a couple of movies that are going to be coming out in limited and in wide release. One of them is Radical, a movie that I missed out over at Sundance. We were hearing some really good things. I think you saw it. You said it was pretty, standard by the numbers, freedom writers, sorry.
Yeah, I think I approached it a little bit cynically because it feels like a story that we've seen a version of a million times before. But the thing is, the reason they do this story so often is it's often pretty satisfying. And Eugenio Derbez makes for a pretty good lead for a movie like this. I didn't get to give it my full attention because it was probably like 3 a.m. and we'd
In the
seen
midst
10
of it all.
movies that day. But
Yeah.
I enjoyed what I saw of it, so I'm gonna give it a second watch once
Alina
it's more
saw it.
readily
Yeah,
available.
she really liked it. So I'm hoping that this plays in some theaters. I haven't seen screenings for it yet, but I look forward to this one. I'm telling Zach, he needs to watch this, and he's so lucky that it's a streaming day and date. You will be
Yeah.
able to watch this on Peacock, but I've already seen some showing selling out for this. Five Nights at Freddy's. Did you ever play the game?
No, but Caitlin, when we first started dating, played it pretty frequently. So I saw over her shoulder quite a
She a
bit
fan?
for some. And I wouldn't call her that, but I
You
think
turn
she's more
around, she's in the
excited
Five
about
Nights
Five Nights at
getup.
Freddy's than I am. Yeah,
She
we
editing
we
in the
got the
bit.
costume in the closet, you know.
No big deal, no big deal. Um, I don't have any faith in the movie, but I'm looking
No,
forward to people's reactions, and I don't know. At least I'm hoping that it's not boring, right? But I'm not expecting the stroke of genius. My only worry is, I don't know. We're reaching a long running time there. 110 minutes is a little steep.
yeah, just I don't know what it is with these people who are don't understand. Like, it just make if it's not something that we're fully sold on, don't make us sit there for 2 hours.
You need the bear lore. I don't
Yeah,
know, but one that will hold us over is the Holdovers, which I know Zach is going to bring up
yeah,
later on as well. But
yep.
I believe this is coming out limited in some places. I think really
Hmm.
only for you because I haven't seen theaters.
New York and LA.
Ugh, I'm really excited for this. Every time the trailer plays, oh, it just looks so good. And when I made sure I saw Killers in one of the best screens that we have right now in the city, and damn, that trailer looked even better.
Hmm.
I highly recommend people. I know it looks like a throwback and it looks kind of old, but it feels so crisp. The style that he has going for this, it looks fantastic from the audio to the visuals. I know Zach gave it a rave review. I think it was your favorite out of Toronto, if I'm not mistaken. Um,
It's that American Fiction and Origin are all like
all
moving
just
around in
together.
that top three, but it's on that upper tier. It's definitely going to be one of my favorite movies of the year.
I'm excited for it, so keep an eye out for that one. And then this one we are actually going to have, which is Dix the Musical. It starts playing
Yeah.
on Thursday, I believe, in most places. The A24 musical that has the whole soundtrack out right now because I think they're really trying to campaign for that best original song with Megan Thee Stallion. So you haven't kind of screening for this yet, have you?
No, literally tried to, and our car broke down uh,
Ah,
in New York,
what a
which was a,
dick.
a whole adventure. But I'm
Damn.
curious about it for sure. One of the most like uptight people that I see like recommended to me on Twitter all the
What was
time.
her name again?
We'll tell you after the stream. Uh, Said that this was the worst A24 film they'd ever
Whoa.
seen, which makes me that much more excited about it.
Okay. It looks like a lot.
Yeah.
I saw them pitch it at Toronto as the Parent Trap, bit like Super Gay and a musical. So we'll see how that translates to the theater. But I'm going
For
to be
sure.
trying to watch a late night showing. Hopefully, all the Swifty fans are there so that we could rock out to this musical as well. But that's all of the stuff that is coming out this week. We're curious to know your recommendations down below in the comment section. We've got some news before we get into our festival coverage. And
Yeah.
Zach, tell me about this Blackberry event?
Yeah, so Blackberry, one of our favorite films from this year, I feel pretty comfortable saying that, is
Easily.
owned by IFC Films, which also owns AMC, the channel, and they are collaborating to premiere the film as a limited series over the course of 3 nights, a 3-night BlackBerry event. So they're taking the Matt Johnson movie that we saw back at South by Southwest and turning it into a miniseries. Now, the movie, if you remember, does kind of have like a 3-part structure. It takes place over the course of several years, and there's like pre-BlackBerry, there's the height of BlackBerry, and then there's the fall of BlackBerry. So I feel like I can sense where the cuts are going to be. But Art, how do you feel about AMC, the American Movie Channel, taking one of our favorite movies of the year and making it a miniseries?
You talking about the 3-act structure that is the beginning, the middle, and the end?
Yeah, certainly not the first movie to have a 3-act structure.
Why?
I don't understand it.
That sounds desperate.
Yeah, part of me is just excited that like more people might see BlackBerry, but why like this? Why can't you just show the movie? Are you that desperate to fill 3 hours?
Ah, damn, because it's AMC, bro. Out of all the streaming services, I still got Paramount. I stopped my AMC one. As much as I love Shudder, like, damn, I might get the screener for that one. I just stopped with my AMC Plus account. This sounds like the most desperate attempt to try to get more viewers. If you don't know, AMC like shot itself in the foot. AMC, the app, has to be one of the most embarrassing apps. They are so bad at getting subscribers that they ended up releasing their stuff on the app first before they do on the AMC thing. You know how ABC will still show Abbott Elementary, then you got to wait the 24 hours? FX will show whatever their FX show is, then you wait 24 hours for Hulu? They do it in reverse. That's how bad their numbers are.
They're desperate over at AMC Plus.
They will literally release the Walking Dead thing on Friday and then be like, and on AMC it's going to be on Sunday. They made it that drastic. It's more than 24 hours because they're like, please just sign up for this thing. This is so goofy. I'm going to allow it to pass if there's more footage.
Well, that's the thing. He during the Q&As, Matt Johnson talked about how he showed a different cut at Berlin than he did in South by Southwest. There is more footage, and Jay in the live stream is confirming that Matt Johnson said this is an extended cut with more footage.
Okay. All right. Yeah, because literally when I saw it in Chicago, he was sitting right behind us, and I'm like, did you cut it again? He just goes, yeah.
So, okay. Yeah, I mean, that
I love this. I'm so happy they're doing this. I'm getting my AMC subscription.
It does make me intrigued to check it out. I just think it's strange because I think it works so well as a movie.
Wow.
Yeah. But I mean, Matt Johnson is not a person who approaches these things with a sense of preciousness, it feels like.
I don't know what goes through that guy's mind. If you try to talk to him, he'll just talk to you. But that's interesting. I'm excited for that. Ernie in the chat had also mentioned another AMC show, Pantheon. I don't know if that got canceled, but I had recommended that a while back. That's another pretty good show. If you do end up getting your AMC package or a free trial to catch this new extended cut for BlackBerry, which we highly recommend.
Dude, not only did they cancel Pantheon, they gave it a 2-season order and then canceled it after 1 season.
A-holes. Damn. This is interesting, bro. BlackBerry, the 3-night event. Okay, let's talk about some film festival stuff.
Let's do it.
I finally wrapped up Chicago, kind of. You know how it goes. I still got a couple of screeners that hopefully have not expired on me. But Zach does have some pretty heavy hitters that he caught out of New York. Tell me about this first one that you have here, which is Ferrari.
Yes. Ferrari, the latest film from the auteur, Michael Mann, looking at the life of Enzo Ferrari. It's a film that premiered at Venice and got pretty stellar reviews. I think a lot of people are anticipating this one as potentially an Oscar player. I was maybe underwhelmed given those expectations for it. It certainly has a lot of energy to it, and there's some visual panache. But I found the whole thing a bit bombastic, and ultimately it struggled to get into second gear for me. It starts in this place of tension, but it never really deepens that tension. It's a lot of what we've seen an increasing amount of complicated guy but his wife was also involved, and they had a tense relationship that led to their greatness. And I don't know, it just felt kind of played out. I think I would have responded better had it not been for the very like jarring, garish
Tell
CGI
me.
car crashes that,
Okay,
yeah,
it looks so goofy in the trailer.
it is way goofier in the movie, because those are some of the most like dramatic climactic elements of the film. The whole like end of the film revolves around this devastating car crash, and it's supposed to be this like pit in your stomach type of feeling. And I just watched a bunch of like cartoonish rubbery limbs go flying. Like it really feels like those like
When you're a
uh
kid, just playing
yeah,
with
no,
toys.
look, those like, I don't know if you've seen those like CGI, like here's what it looks like if a car crashes at going 50 miles per hour. Here's what it
Yeah,
looks like crashing
the
60. Like
previs.
it looks goofy as hell. And I know he apparently like studied the thermodynamics of it and put a lot of effort into it, but it looks rubbery and computery, and completely pulled me out of the reality of the film. Yeah, it doesn't work at all. And particular, like, I'm one who tries to be forgiving with what people talk about as poor CGI. Like, I think ultimately those elements tend to not be major parts of movies that are pretty big, but the movie kind of hinges on those moments, and they don't hit.
Well, you can't have a good story and good CGI. Two things cannot occupy the same space. You know how crazy it is to
The
see like
James Cameron rule.
see that movie and then that movie trailer, and then right afterwards the trailer for Napoleon. I'm like, is this the same like premise? Like woman and really upholding man.
Yeah.
The trailer has me mixed because like I'm both really intrigued by it, but it like overspells the premise, like you were saying. It feels like it really heightens up his relationships to the point where it's like, no, we get it. We understand the turmoil that you're going through. You're not the first movie to cover this. And if you're telling me that even the racing parts of it for a Ferrari movie don't live up to it, yeah, you kind of got my
Yeah.
expectations down.
I certainly wasn't like the majority opinion. I think a lot of people found it still impactful. Ewan in the live stream just said that he found the crash very impactful. I don't know. It took me out of it, unfortunately. So
All right. Well, do we know a date for this one? Let me check right here.
it's out in Christmas wide,
Oh, wow. Okay.
December 25th.
There's going to be a lot of Christmas movies. All right. Ferrari. Is he good? Is he good?
Yeah, you know what? I love Driver. I think he's so convincing. He's my guy though, so maybe I'm giving him a little too much credit,
sense.
but I think he completely worked in this.
What about your other boy? Your other man's over here. Is he still just as goofy in The Curse?
Oh man, the curse. Where do we start with the curse? We should mention that this is a show that was co-created not just by Nathan Fielder, but also Benny Safdie, who plays a role as well. It stars Nathan, Benny, as well as Emma
Oh,
Stone,
wow.
which pretty big name for something like this. This is going to Showtime. It is a really intriguing comedy that is sort of the behind the scenes of a couple putting together a pilot for their new HGTV home makeover show.
Sounds great.
But there's so much more than just that. And it's also like so much more than like a goofy comedy. It's like very bone dry. It's deeply concerned with like the way that people present themselves both in TV and on social media and to each other. There's lots of very interesting dynamics between the characters, particularly Emma Stone and Nathan Fielder, who play this married couple who have their own baggage they're bringing into their personal lives and trying to simultaneously get this show made. It's got a lot of the awkward comedy that I think you're going to expect given somebody like Nathan being involved. There's like a very extended scene where they all sit around and watch a focus group critique like basically everything about Nathan down to his personality and looks.
That's funny.
But
He's probably gone through that.
Oh, he's definitely gone through that. But I think the thing that really is the most intriguing about the show is like when it pushes on these sort of weird buttons, these ideas of like what is okay to do, proper to do, the things that he will do on camera to present himself one way and then try to make up for as soon as the camera cuts. Um, I definitely didn't laugh as much as I expected to because it is such a
Interesting.
like it's such a like discomforting weird tone throughout, but you'll go through 10 minutes of like character development and discomfort and then be treated to like the 5 funniest minutes that you've seen maybe in television all year. Like the
Wow.
cherry tomato boys thing is going to be such a thing when the episodes drop for everybody. You heard it here first, but I thought it was pretty hysterical. I want to see where it goes because even after 3 episodes, I feel like they've only scratched the surface of
Hmm.
what they're trying to do, and everybody involved is great. I'll say there's a sex scene in this that rivals what Emma Stone did in Poor Things for daringness. Uh, Not sure if you paused or not, but yeah. So the curse. I mean, I think it's really going to be like one of the big shows when it comes out. I think it's not set to be released on Showtime until November 10th. So we still got a little bit of time, but I mean, it's coming. So get ready. New Nathan Fielder is always something to be intrigued by.
That's good. I know that they've been seeing the Paramount action, maybe not on Paramount. So we'll see how that goes. I knew when you were at New York, we were gonna play it at the Link.
Yeah, no, it's really cool that uh they're showing the episodes at the Lincoln Center before they even air on Showtime, which is kind of cool. If you are in the area, you can get a sneak preview of them.
All right, great. Now we have we were able to catch Chicago International Festival. Like we had mentioned in our preview, it is one of the best festivals in the Midwest in terms of all international picks because you have a bunch of movies submissions for their respective countries, and it's just a really cool way to go to a bunch of theaters here in Chicago. So breaking down a lot of my honorable mentions that I have seen, and then I got top 10. Uh, I I obviously had to make it out for Eric LaRue, which I don't know if you caught back at Tribeca when it had its premiere,
No,
but
I
this is a
missed it. I missed it.
movie that comes from the man, Michael Shannon. I don't think it's his. Oh, it is his directorial debut.
Yeah,
Interesting. I thought he had done something else. I know producing wise, he was able to get some really big people on here who he's worked with in the past. Jeff Nichols, who also has a movie, Bike Riders. He came on to support him here. And look, it's got an interesting premise in terms of it being about a mother whose child is the school shooter, and because of that she's trying to get back into things in terms of her relationship, in terms of the town, in terms of her church, and it creates this really weird dynamic in where I don't want to say she's playing like a selfish person, but it becomes very much revolved around not Eric LaRue but Mama LaRue, Janice, and she does a really good job in the role. But I just felt that the script, and it's not so much the direction. He's got some interesting moments here and there that are very awkward, but the script was something that by the end of it, I was holding on to a 3.5 stars, and I just couldn't by the end of it.
mm,
The husband in this, who is dealing with things in his own way, is played by Alexander Skarsgård. It just the range in this man is incredible. He can go from being the cockiest guy in Succession, he can be a literal Viking. Here, he's the timid Christian father who doesn't really realize that he's getting flirted upon by a local church member played by Allison Pill, who does a fantastic job as being, for the Lord, just helping a neighbor out whenever they can. But there's not much there for a lot of the characters that really resonated with me. And it's one of those where people who have been in a scenario like this, something this traumatic, I'm very curious to see what they would think about this,
mm.
especially when it comes to a final talk that happens in the movie. I would highly, highly, highly recommend another film that you and I have mentioned in the past, which would be, and I don't have it queued up here, but Black Mass, right?
Oh yeah, the Fran Kranz movie. Yeah,
That one's very good.
yeah. So it's got sort of maybe a similar kind of like a
Premise.
somber, mournful tone.
Dude, throughout the movie, they're trying to build up to this meeting that the pastor really wants to have, so that she can meet up with the parents, and it's almost like this dude just kind of wants to get the contract. I want to be the first. I want to be the other pastor. I want to make sure that I'm the one who's kind of overseeing Alexander. What the heck, bro? That he's the one overseeing everything, but it's played by this pastor, and I don't know who the actor would be here. Um, this man, it has to be this dude right here.
Paul
He
Sparks.
plays the pastor so well in the most terrible way. He
Hmm.
is the most annoying pastor to the point that not only is he not fit for the job, halfway through, it's very difficult with this image. This man just embodied Tim Robbins. Throughout the entire bit of awkwardness and anything that happened, he would make things even more awkward. I don't know. There was just so much to his character that I despised, but it was a solid performance from him. So again, it's a very mixed movie for me in terms of what it was trying to go for very heavy subject matter. But as Zach mentioned right there, I would highly recommend checking out Mass. I was adding a black to it. This is the Johnny Depp one.
Yeah, that's
I would highly
the
recommend
exactly.
Mass. Mass is the best version of this movie.
Nice.
Going
Yeah,
through a couple of, or
I was just gonna say that Eric Liu, he directed it, but Michael Shannon didn't write it. So I'm curious what brought the script to him as well, because it's not even a writer
that
with a
would
lot
be
of credits
interesting.
to his name.
It may have been a play, if I'm not mistaken.
Hmm.
One of these was also written by somebody else, or might have been a novel. But
Yeah.
yeah, he's a Chicago guy, so I was happy to at least go catch his movie. I just wish it was a little bit better. Some of the other international picks would have been this duo here that I told you of Bad Living and Living Bad, two films from Portugal, one of which got the submission, and I was really hyped for these, and they're good, but they're very, very, very slow.
Hmm.
One perspective is covering this hotel and all of the women who work at this hotel. They've lost a patriarchal figure, and they might even lose the hotel before they maybe lose their minds together. And it's very slowly paced. If someone is brushing their hair, you are going to see every strand of hair getting brushed. This is a movie in where, from this perspective, you're seeing all of the struggles that they have to go through before the people come in to take over or visit the hotel. Whereas Living Bad is from the perspective mostly of all the rich people. I will say though, you need to watch Bad Living before you watch Living Bad, in my opinion, because this one kind of sets the in and out points of the, I want to say like the weekend, and then here you're seeing moments from the first movie that they never really showcase to you if you were just watching this movie alone, if that makes any sense. But while this one is a little bit slower, this one's a little bit more fast paced because you got multiple rich people who are going through their problems and such. It's very interesting. I'd be curious to revisit it again later in the future because the performances are really strong. I think it's a really good script. It's just they're both pushing 2 hours, and you end up getting a lot of repetitiveness, especially when you're following the perspectives again as you swap between both movies. But I want to say Bad Living is the one that they submitted for the Oscar, so it'll be interesting to see how far that gets on the short list. But a very
How would
interesting
it
concept.
Now that you've seen them, how would you compare it to the disappearance of Eleanor Rigby, another film that showed us two sides to one story?
I like the pacing more in that,
Hmm.
but I do think the story here is a little bit better. It's just the pacing that really did it for me. But yeah, that would be a pretty good comparison to it. And I want to see more movies that do this because I'm a big
Yeah,
fan of that, of being able to get a different perspective once you switch out what it's like to be not the person serving but the person being served, or how someone misconstrued something, or how someone didn't
yeah.
remember something.
It's a
But
really really interesting idea. Like it takes the whole idea of like a Rashomonic film structure and
mhm.
spreads it across several films. And I feel like maybe even TV it has had some successful attempts at this
Yeah,
style. But yeah, I think we've yet to see a pair of movies that like really really ran with this concept in the right way.
maybe that Kevin Costner movie where he spent all his money on it. That's gonna be the two-parter next year.
Yeah.
We'll see what they do there. A couple of other ones going down the honorable mentions list. Departing Seniors. It was a movie that was there for opening night, in where it is a Chicago-based filmmaker, someone who I've seen her previous work at Chicago Critics Fest, I want to say, with Runner, and she's now moved up her feature film. from a script that's very much influenced from a lot of 2000s movies, from Scream, 90s movie, but Scream, what's the Bring It On Again. There's a lot of references in this movie, many that were going over my head until you just sit there and you go like, that is from that other movie. But it does it in a way where it's very playful. And it's a very enjoyable movie where you're following these kids who are all getting kind of murdered one by one by this killer who's wearing the drama class mask, and you don't know who it is. And they do all of these, little red herrings to a bunch of characters that you're trying to figure out who it could be as you follow who I consider the Mexican Tom Holland. He don't look like it too much here, but there are moments where this man is staring at the screen, and he even's got the Tom Holland like gasping for air type thing. But he's really good. It took me a while because I couldn't find it here, and even when you go to his IMDb, let me backtrack a bit here, it doesn't appear. Do you recognize this boy? Right here, you can see a little bit more of his Tom Hollandness, a little tired Tom Holland. He's from Primo.
Oh,
he's
got some.
Primo.
He looks handsome with the longer hair.
Oh yeah, no, he's a good-looking dude. He plays a Mexican-American gay dude. Like that's his character. And while it could really fall into those tropes of like, I got it, you're like checking that box, it's like very funny how introspective it is because the writer himself is taking from a lot of his own story. So there's a lot in this movie that I like. The reason why I couldn't give it more than 3 stars was because the ending, when it comes to the killer's story, as cool and interesting as it is, it gets pretty shoddy towards the end, and ends up becoming a movie that reminds you more of the better versions of what it's trying to homage. But still a really interesting story, pretty fun movie. I want to give a big shout out to I want to say it was Irian Roach. She's in a couple of movies in this fest, including shorts. She's fantastic. We need to see her in more stuff. She had that like cameo role in Candyman. I want to say she was one of the girls in the bathroom scene. She's really good at, in both of the projects that she was at Chicago. So shouts out to her.
Very
One
cool.
of the other ones that I have on here is a movie, if I'm not mistaken, that comes from Iran. Yeah, confirming that. Terrestrial Versus takes a bunch of vignettes. So I wasn't sure what I was going to get out of this movie until like you get to the third one and you realize every single shot is just going to be these static shots of people sitting down dealing with an authority figure. So this is a woman who's trying to get her car back, but they don't like that she has short hair. And it looked like the person who we got on camera, as they projected in the back, had longer hair. What do you mean that's your boyfriend? Boys should not have long hair. This is a guy who wants his license back, but he's got a lot of markings, and the person needs to see if his markings are fit for him to drive. There's a one dealing with a woman who lost her dog. That was probably the most profound one because they tell her to go to the police office and she's just standing there in the police office and she hears a dog, but they don't want to tell her if it's hers or not. It's all of these little moments that I think build up to this idea of what it's like to live in a regime and what you have to do when you can't get a job, you can't get help, you can't even tell the stories that you want to without it being kind of siphoned or censored through whoever's in charge. A really interesting story. I'd be curious to see how they release this one or what type of limited release it gets because I don't think it was a submission for them, but I would argue for it. I think Iran right now is actually going through some beef that the submission they chose was propaganda. So the film committee over there said this is disrespectful, and I think they're in limbo right now, and they did not submit one. But I thought this was a very interesting approach.
Iran's one of those countries that has lots of really incredible filmmakers, but the various government forces or film commission forces don't always choose those great films from great filmmakers as the country's submission for whatever political reasons. So
They don't want it to speak for them.
Yeah, that it not getting that endorsement isn't always necessarily like a knock against the film.
It's almost worse, right?
Right.
If you do get it, it's like, they shouldn't be supporting you. But I will say that there is one vignette, because again, they really all are static shots. There's one vignette where it's a director who submits a script about his father and how abusive he was. And they're like, no, you can't show the patriarch as being abusive, and he needs to rewrite it, and he ends up like cutting up all of his script up to the point that he wants to do a story from the Quran, but when he picks the story of Joseph getting seduced, they don't count that one either. So he's like, I can't even do the stories that y'all want me to do. And it's this really funny, just take, a satirical take on not even being able to tell the stories when you're following the rules. But Terrestrial Versus, it was a pretty interesting movie.
Nice.
I'd keep it on your radar. Probably the biggest one that I paid out of pocket for because it was one of the special centerpiece screenings that also had an Academy Award winner. Bro, she was this close to me when she walked out. Saltburn by Emerald Fennell, that had her in between the movie dipping out. She didn't care about the reactions. She went to Giordano's. This woman came back. I wish I had a picture of her. She came back with a pink shirt that said, I just got stuffed in Chicago.
That feels like a very Emerald Fennell shirt.
Pizza joke for sure.
Yeah.
Saltburn. What can I say about Saltburn? You've seen Cruel Intentions?
Yeah.
So she's Zach. Saltburn is a movie about rich kids who do rich things in rich schools. I want to say, would it be a boarding school or is it a? I don't know what their schools are called. Is it higher than a boarding school?
Let us know if you know what British boarding schools are called. Cause
I don't know. I know a lot of people made fun of her because the joke is that she is also super rich where she came from, and that the Saltburn, which refers to the manor, was her house, that they just filmed it there. She pulled like a weekend thing. There's like just boarding school. This is where these two characters meet in what was Barry Keoghan's name? Oliver, and specifically Jacob Elordi's Felix, who he kind of falls in love with, doesn't fall in love with. You're following it from the perspective of Barry Keoghan's character, who you already know is going to be off kilter to some degree, right? And he ends up getting invited to stay at Saltburn because Barry Keoghan's character kind of has a lot of turmoil going on with his parents. So he joins his family and kind of becomes a new adopted child who may be a little too attached. This is a movie where she does so many shots and lingers on them. And in the Q&A will tell you when everyone's asking, why are you trying to be so provocative? She's like, is it provocative? I'm just trying to hold the shot to see how much you can take. It's like, bro, if you're acknowledging that you're trying to see how much the audience can take, it sounds like you're trying to see how much you could push the audience. I am so mixed on this movie. I think you and I both really appreciated Promising Young Woman.
Yeah.
But we heard a lot of the critiques. Damn, is this one to have in the holster for those people who wanted to call her out? It is... She's just trying to be a provocateur here, man. I want to look for a story in here. There is a take that she said that I don't want to spoil that makes it more gothic. And I was like, okay, I saw some little Easter eggs in the background. I can see that being an interesting take, a completely radical different take on the story of a guy who joins this rich family. But, like, it looks so pretty, and that might just be it. There's some great performances from a lot of the cast in here. Jacob Elordi is great. Out of all the internet boys, shout out to him, dude. He made it out of Kissing Booth. Archie Medicue, who you were just mentioning earlier,
Gran Turismo,
Gran Turismo movie. The dude is great, man. But I feel like she chose him as an afterthought because it just so happens to be the darker skinned character who says a lot of the "you don't belong here" lines. The parents are fantastic, though. The parents are played by Richard E. Grant. No complaints. And Rosamund Pike. No complaints. I would even argue that Rosamund Pike is such a goat. I think she's making fun of Emerald Fennell within the movie.
I heard someone say that it feels like Rosamund's the only one who has the right tone.
Yes. 100%.
Yeah, she gets
Carey
it.
Mulligan also kind of has an interesting little, I want to call him more of a cameo role in here, very side role. Yeah, she looks fantastic in the movie. But overall, there is a lot to be intrigued about in this movie. It ended up being like a Spring Breakers for me. I'll leave it at that. Some people are really going to love it. I'll revisit it soon. But it's one of those where you don't hate it, but you really wanted to love it. So you're left in that middle ground of kind of being disappointed and wondering, what were you really trying to say?
Right.
She kept arguing with Mimi, the director, who was running the Q&A. And, like, Mimi would say something, she's like, not really. And then proceed to kind of agree with Mimi. Like, I didn't understand what was going on in that Q&A.
Given that this is a film that stars some internet favorite actors, do you see this being a movie that gets memed into oblivion? And
no, you don't understand the type of shots that she does in this movie. It is literally just to bait people. I can't spoil a single one, but there's a lot of saliva. There's a lot of licking. There's a lot of things, bro. And it's really just meant for people to rip the cam immediately on opening weekend because, like you said, they're going to want to make fan cams of just how awkward and over the top people are. But I will say it's been very funny to see a lot of people bring up his Banshees role. There was this one funny meme talking about how he had this is an example of having so
No
little
riz.
riz that the man jumped off. This would be the most insane take on that character. I will leave it at that. I'm very curious to see when you catch it. I think you're catching it this week, so we'll have more
Tomorrow.
thoughts. We'll have plenty more thoughts next week, Zach. I'm very curious to see your take on it, and then I'll let you know what you mentioned in the Q&A, which could be a much more interesting movie, but I don't think it's fully there. Saltburn. Coming out December? If it doesn't get pushed like a lot of the other movies have.
Yeah.
Looks beautiful, though. Black Box is an Israeli, German, Belgium. Like, it is multiple different things at once, and it is a movie that covers a group of people who are all living in this block. And the block gets shut down, and no one can leave because they're investigating someone in there. It has a fantastic premise. And I can't wait to see this be remade because I think there's so much potential in this story. It's got really good performances that revolve around what could be xenophobia about people trying to shut down this place because they're looking for a threat, but at the same time, kind of like Les Miserables from TIFF, they're not really doing you the favor of protecting you from this building. They kind of want to get you out of the building so that they can create what they want in there.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to revisiting it because there's so much things going on, and it isn't until the end of the movie that you see people's ulterior motives, which I think is really well written in the script. I'd just be curious to see another director's take on it. I'm also not from over there, so there's a lot of these festival movies where there's so much intricacies. If you're not from Hungary, if you're not from Germany, where you don't know what that culture is like over there. So I'm curious to see some Germans, if they saw this movie, to see their take on it. Turns out they like it a little less, but then I'm wondering if they're a little too close to it. Like, my complaint is in the direction. Their complaint is like, we don't like what the movie's saying. But I think the movie is critiquing what they think it's endorsing. So Black Box, a very interesting, I don't want to call it a bottle film because you got the whole building, but they are all trapped in this block.
Yeah. There's this like resistance to remaking foreign films that are good because people are kind of like, oh, well, just go watch the original. Just go watch the original Parasite. HBO shouldn't remake that. So like I have this running list on my Letterboxd that I keep of like movies that should get American remakes of those like really great premises that maybe could be elevated by a remake. You're saying this is one for that list.
Yeah, because I agree with you. You don't need to remake it piece for piece. What you're remaking and what you're retelling is the nuances to American culture, right? And sadly, stuff like Force Majeure did not do that. It decided to go the cheaper route. But when you're able to do a translation of like, oh, I didn't understand that from that culture, but I do get it here. The ramen thing from Parasite would be the perfect example where you broke that down to me and you're like, oh, it's because over there it's like a cheap food and a really rich food being combined. And you gave me the American example of that. I'm like, that's a true translation. That's a true remake. And I'd be curious to see what take they would have on Black Box. But I'd recommend that. I think it'd be a decent rental.
Cool.
Keeping with kind of the same themes, Explanation for Everything won the Gold Hugo, and it was actually the last one I saw. I saw it at night. I woke up, it won the award. I'm like, damn. It's about this kid who in Hungary is wearing a pin. Again, nuances that I'm on Wikipedia trying to catch up what this pin means to them over there. And like, I'm still kind of confused. So if anyone's from over there, definitely let me know. But he goes in to take this exam, and that this exam is like really big over there because that's what's going to lead to him going to university or not. But while this kid wasn't prepped for the exam and he kind of failed it, it becomes this debacle where he's able to blame the very liberal teacher that he was scoping him out because he wore his national pin. And I guess that's more conservative than it is left-leaning over there, and it's considered very nationalistic. And I don't know if that's supposed to be a take. You know, it's not one for one, but like what a Confederate flag would be over here, but not necessarily a Confederate flag. You know, it's a different take over there.
Yeah.
And I don't understand that. But the movie is tackling those issues of this kid now creating this entire national debacle because while he didn't study, everyone thinks that he was like ostracized, that he was actually picked apart because of it, and it becomes national news. There is a really back and forth that happens between the teacher who's getting blamed for this and the father. It just felt like a conversation that would definitely happen here in America. And again, not to be a broken record for it, but it'd be very fascinating to see a take on this. Because the reason that it won the award was because a lot of people said that it was very balanced and a nuanced take on what they're dealing with over there. So to me, this is kind of like a primer of just understanding Hungary politics and what happened and the revolution that they had, all done within this kid who's just trying to chill. Like, this kid does not care. You have people who are fighting for the country in different ways, and this kid just wants to like sneak into pools. I wish I had a picture of the teacher, bro. I kid you not. It's Hassan, the streamer.
Oh yeah.
I wish I had a picture, bro. The pony man bun and all. So I found it funny that he was the liberal leaning one, literally talking at his pace and
The
everything.
meta
but
casting there, maybe.
yeah, I'd be very curious to see people's thoughts on it, especially if you're from Hungary. Let me know more of the nuances here. But very well directed, very well written film. I'm just missing that extra attachment to it or understanding of it. But it won the big Golden Hugo for it. So explanation for everything. Also, their submission, if I'm not mistaken. So one to keep on the radar if you're looking up the shortlist. The Crime Is Mine is a really funny one. I believe it's a French film that is just really goofy in the sense of it being two friends who one wants to be an actress, the other wants to be a lawyer. The actress got denied a role, and then the guy who denied her ends up dead. The lawyer goes, "How about I write a role for you? Just say you did it, and we'll make you super famous." And she becomes super famous. That is until the real murderer, played by the one and only Isabelle Huppert, appears, and more chaos ensues. It's so goofy, bro. It's so over the top.
Farcical from that description.
This and Anatomy back to back is a crazy double feature. It is the most whimsical take on that. I'm not going to say it's the greatest movie, but I also don't think it's a terrible movie. I think it's a really fun watch. So if you're curious on this, keep it on your radar. The Crime Is Mine, a funny little comedy. One that I know you are not going to have the patience to see in a theater, which is why I waited for a screening link. Shout out to the festival for that one. Is Do Not Expect Too Much from the End of the World. You're the one who told me about Looney Porn, which was this director's previous movie. I haven't been able to see it. It did play at Chicago, but I haven't seen it because they have not
Censored
released
it
the
for
official
Hulu?
cut.
Yeah.
Yeah, break that down.
The film opens with like a 10-minute sex tape or something, and it is very integral to the plot of the film. But I don't think those things fly on Hulu, so they just censor the whole thing, and there's lots of like text on screen like, there's a sex scene here, we couldn't show it to you, so here's some others. It's funny, it's a comment on itself, but it's not the original cut of the film.
Yeah, and I feel like he's got that same energy going on here when it comes to this film, because this is a movie in where you're following a driver, and when I say you're following a driver, you are following this driver. She is a girl who also vlogs with a filter, pretending to be like Andrew Tate, like name dropping him and all, and it's supposed to be satirical. People are like, "Why are you talking like that?" But she's doing like a Borat, right? The over the topness in her vlogs is meant to be a joke on who she's making fun of. She specifically works for Nina Haas, which is why I had this movie on my radar, who is running this company who's looking for her to hire the spokesperson that the company needs, who's just really going to be their scapegoat. So she is driving hours upon hours to these different places to record people who got hurt on the job and should be suing the job, but the job is trying to buy them out, because if one of them can submit a good spokesperson type memo, they'll be able to be the front runner, and they get like a measly check. But in the meantime, they're also getting them all to submit, yes, I'm to blame for not wearing my helmet, when that was never like the issue. Like Zach explained with the other one, this is a director who definitely takes his time.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, to showcase how much he's driving, damn, do they show you how much he's driving. But there's some banger moments in here. There's some really good satirical takes on here. Very well written script. It's just a movie that's 164 minutes long. I had the privilege to see it at home, so that's definitely going to be a completely different take than sitting in a theater for 3 hours to take this in. And boy, were there a lot of 3-hour movies this year. I haven't seen Looney Porn, but I do dig his direction. I dig the style and the approach that he takes for his movies, and I would recommend it for the film fans out there, for the Oscar aficionados out there, because I believe this is their submission as well.
Romania.
Is it Romania?
I think so.
There's like so many. It has to be. Romania is one of the countries here. Um, there's a lot of greatness in there, but it's very difficult to recommend it obviously to a mainstream audience. But it is pretty
Yeah.
good, and would
Something
probably
that
be my
I
11th
talk
film.
about sometimes with those like really meaty long films is that like the experience of watching it sometimes isn't the most pleasant. Like you get restless, but then having watched it, you really appreciate because there's
Yeah,
good stuff in there. So yeah, maybe not if that the idea of sitting down for something that long is just intimidating to you, maybe it's not for you.
yeah.
But if you're not intimidated by that, sounds like there's going to be some interesting stuff there.
The actress who you saw on the front as well, she ended up being the winner of
Oh,
Best Actress for Chicago as well. And honestly, yeah, I'd give it to her. She does a lot. She's really good in the movie. So
very cool.
shout out to her. Um, Getting into it. That was all of my little honorable mentions. I have a bunch of other ones as well. I'll be making a whole Let Me Explain, kind of going through all of the little tiny pics, some behind the scene pictures that we have. But those were pretty much the biggest ones that didn't make my top 10. These would be my top 10 films from the
Let's do
Chicago
it.
International Film Festival. The first one that I have is one that we were not able to catch at TIFF a while back. It's a movie called The People's Joker that had such a splash over the border because it was breaking copyright laws, because it was talking about obviously a massive DC character to the point that WB shut this movie down reportedly, allegedly, supposedly. Don't know how that story came to be or what happened because they claim WB didn't really say anything, but they might have said something. It ended up reminding me a lot of that movie from a couple of years back, almost a decade now, where they filmed inside of Disney
Yeah,
and
Beyond Tomorrowland or something like
something like that.
that.
And
Yeah,
they filmed it in secret. It's in
Escape
black
from
and white.
Tomorrowland. Yeah.
Escape from Tomorrow. Thank you. Beautiful poster, if I recall.
Mhm.
And in that movie, they were so afraid that they were going to get like copyright stricken, but they were able to put it out in festivals, which is exactly what this movie was able to do. A lot of movies at festivals can release a film and it could have copyrighted music, anything, because you're trying to sell it, and whoever buys it either needs to clear the rights or they change it up. The DC aspect of it isn't even the issue here. It's the amount of music they put in this thing. If you
Mm.
get the chance to see, if you're curious of this movie at all, you need to see it at a film festival because this is going to be cut up to bits. I'm going to be honest. This did not look like my cup of tea. This looked like vomit. It looked like garbage. It looks like one of the ugliest movies out there.
Yeah.
And it's exactly how it needs to be shot. This is a mixed media type movie. A lot of people I've been seeing trashing it because they called it a Doug Walker movie. And I'm like, bro, I don't know why you're admitting to the public that you watch Doug Walker, but this is Adult Swimish, bro. Vera Drew has worked
Yeah.
on a lot of different projects with people who are massive in this awkward type of space, in this
Yeah.
like awkwardly edited thing that's done on purpose. It's done for a reason. I would
Yeah.
say Doug Walker is trying his best. They're doing it for a
Right.
reason.
This feels a lot more like punk rock than whatever it is Doug Walker's doing.
Bro, and that's what got me. I'm just going to be honest. I did not think this was going to be up my alley. I thought
Mhm.
this looked corny. I honestly thought like they were just trying to stir up a lot of things to get attention. Nah, bro, I cannot name you a more punk rock movie, dude. There are people calling this some sort of Reddit movie. I get it. Anything close to whatever. Yeah, I understand. It's going to be too close to internet talk or whatever. This movie breaks so many copyright stuff. It goes hard, dude. Vera Drew is a G. There are stuff within the script that isn't just super infatuated with DC culture. Like they understand the lore of Batman and the Joker so much. Like if you're a fan of anything dealing with Batman, I think shout out every incarnation of him from the Bat Nipples to the animated series. There is a lot of love there. Yes, it looks like garbage because it's doing this mixed media approach, but like you can feel not only the passion of a fan, but then the way they translate it to their, I don't want a coming out story, coming to be story, I thought was actually pretty beautiful. But the way that they call out the industry, because the point of the movie is that they're playing a person who grows up in Smallville, who instead of saying that they're really sad gets given Smilex. So they're drugged up, they're doped up. When they leave to go be a comedian at what's SNL, run by a Lorne Michaels cutout, They realize that the establishment is what they need to go after. There is so much punk rock themes to this movie, dude. They call out political figures, and not the ones you think they're going to be calling out, not the easy targets. They are ballsy with this, dude. They call out big comedians. There are some lines here about trust fund kids and how they're the ones running things and they're not really telling you the real stories that they're supposed to. This has to be one of the biggest surprises from the festival. I'm astonished I had it in my top 10. I thought this was going to be very much a movie for a particular audience that wasn't going to be me, and they ended up knocking it out of the park. I know it's not going to be for everyone because of the style. It's very goofy. It's very over the top. And towards the ending, I thought it kind of, I don't want to say lost it, but wrapped it up in a way where that energy from the beginning kind of mellowed out. Very interesting after credits. And it seems like they're going to continue this style of parody, satire, F copyright with a horror take next.
Ooh.
But, bro, I was the biggest critical person coming to this movie, so I can't give it a better recommendation than how surprised I came out of it. Very, very dope take for the People's Joker.
Very interesting. Yeah, I mean, I, like you, am just kind of curious when, if it does get released in a more widely available way, what kind of form it will take, because not just the, like you were saying, not just the character copyright issues, but all that music. I hope it can retain that
footage.
Spirit and that energy, but who knows?
But that's part of it. It's saying screw that. You know, like the closest thing I can think of it is in hip hop when people will sample and they can't clear it, so it will never make the album. But it's like, that's fine. It'll go on DatPiff. It'll go on SoundCloud. Like,
yeah, they just got to upload it to Vimeo or
free.
something.
Bro, if they do that, that'd be the most punk rock thing ever. I like the energy in the movie a lot more than I expected. Nah, it's a very dope take. Shout out to People's Joker. At number 9 is a movie that I know a lot of people have been loving, like absolutely adoring, and you and I thought it was good. It was solid. Yeah. Zach gave his takes on All of Us Strangers when he covered it over for the New York Film Festival. I got to see it at a press screening where everyone was just crying and sniffling. It's the story of two men who live in a building where they're pretty much the only ones there. And eventually, since they're both gay men, they start being each other's company. But one of them in particular has a lot of baggage that they have not gotten over. And the way they deal with that baggage is done in a very, I'll just put it, Paul Mescal movie type of way. This man is always gravitating to these types of stories, in my opinion.
Broken
and all
people.
I can say is, yeah, it's going to hit for the people it's going to hit.
Yeah.
I have nothing bad to say about it, but I may not love it as much as other people are infatuated with it at the moment. But it's solid performances all around. The approach that these two take in terms of being together and how they're dealing with their grief, I thought was really well done. Andrew Scott has, in my opinion, the cry scene of the year. But there were some awkward moments. I don't know if you saw it with press or if you saw it publicly, right? Because you ended up not being able to go to the press.
Yeah, I saw it publicly, so I was also accompanied by a room full of sobbing people.
We had a critic. When a spit scene happens, that man choked. I couldn't tell if he was disgusted or if he was coming. It was the weirdest take that we had at the press screening. But look, I think it's a very well-written script. I think it's very emotional. And I have it as a recommendation. Nothing to take away from it. I just know that some people are going to be attracted to this a lot more than I am. But shout out Andrew Scott and Paul Mescal. The next one that I have is Blackbird, Blackbird, Blackberry. I want to say this is Georgia's submission about a woman who just lives in the small town who ends up finding herself very late in age. She's a virgin, and it isn't until she's this much older that she realizes this new, more wild side to her. And I would compare it a lot to movies that we've seen from Sundance and South by about older women with Mama Cruz. Chicago had one that won a couple years ago. I'm blanking on the name of it. But there was another one earlier this year, Chronicles of a Wandering Saint. Chronicles of a Wandering Saint still takes my older lady coming of age crown, but I think Alina ended up having this one top that, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have this one at third. I still think Mama Cruz is even better than this one.
Okay.
But hey, solid perspective, solid
It's a
story,
trend.
great performance. It's been a trend, but it's like, yo, I think it's less that they're realizing this is a story you can do, but it's them finally getting the money to do these stories, and
Right.
now they're all coming out and doing it. But all three have been able to do a really good job at covering the same ground, but still have their own kind of take on it. And I think the lead performance was really good, and it was just very adorable to see her come to her own, not just with herself, but from the people around her, the people she's never talked back to. And a very solid choice to be the country submission. I'd be rooting for this one to make it to the shortlist. May not make it all the way, but a really solid pick. When I went to go see Zone of Interest, there was an elderly duo behind me. They didn't know each other. They like I don't know if they started dating, man. They started giving each other picks. They came to this movie. They're like, "Did you see Blackbird, Blackbird, Blackberry?" They knocked it out. They kept talking even through like the intro of the Chicago overlay. This movie may connect people. It's the new man, Kazak, is all I'm saying for elderly letterbox critics out there. So Blackbird, Blackbird, Blackberry, a really good take. And we got to give this genre a name. And the older lady coming of age sagas that are out there.
The Stella's got her groove back.
Stella's
genre.
got her groove. I like that. The next one that I have is Paradise is Burning. This is a movie about three sisters who don't have a mom because she's decided to dip out. She's somewhere else entirely. And the older sister is now stuck taking care of the younger ones. The middle one is in that position where she takes her sister for granted because the sister won't tell her the problems that are going on. So the middle sister just assumes that everything's okay and is looking at her sister as not being the parent or the guardian that she could be if she wanted to. And then you got the youngest one who's just eating a bunch of snacks throughout it. I thought this was an incredibly well-casted movie. All three sisters do a fantastic job. The main premise that they're dealing with is that child services has called, and they need to get someone to play their mom. And only the older sister knows this. And if she can't get someone to play the mom, all their sisters are going to be split apart. It is a funny, yet very sad movie that, again, is anchored by the dynamic that the sisters have with each other and does a really great job at showing you how, through everything that they're going through, each one has a completely different perspective from the other. And it's them not sharing what they're going through that causes more of a rift than thinking that hiding the bad stuff would be the better thing to do. I really loved it. I think the ending is fantastic. It's very, very melancholic, and I would recommend this one very, very highly. And it goes very well with my next pick, which is Sisterhood, another one of a trio of girls in France, if I'm not mistaken. The title to this, funny enough, they changed it right at TIFF. The title was HLM Pussy, because I want to say that's the projects that they live in, and that's like the gang name that they want to come up with. But pretty much you have three friends who come from different sides of the track. These two over here kind of live in the poorer side of town, whereas this girl on the left's a little bit richer. But the girl on the left is kind of passing, even though she is Middle Eastern, and she has this incredible moment with her father about again kind of the same turmoil of the father keeps a lot from the daughter, so the daughter thinks of him as like a bad dad, when in reality the dad's just looking out for her. And there's an incredible scene that they have. But what really happens is that this girl tries to help out the other two because there's some, let's just call it, really shady male figures in the building that are kind of abusing and taking advantage of them. And she thinks that leaking a video is going to help, and it only makes things worse. Not just jeopardizing them and where they live, but also jeopardizing their friendship. People have been comparing this to La Haine. I think any movie comes out and they want to throw La Haine out there if it's French. La Haine's a classic.
Yeah.
I'd say it's in the spirit of it. But I really like the performances in here, and just that idea of, again, being able to not just see the different perspectives, but how those different perspectives clash with each other if they're not being honest with each other. Sisterhood, very good movie. And I'd keep it on your radar. Let's see. Cool. I am on my number 6 over here, which, funny enough, we both talked about it. Anatomy of a Fall. We talked about it earlier in the live stream, but here I'll give it a mention in terms of it being the France submission that was not. Now, Zach has said that Taste of Things, which sadly I missed, I didn't get to catch it at the festival, is the right pick for France. But it seems like the people love Anatomy of a Fall. And it's pretty good. I think it's a really solid procedural movie about an incident that happens on this kind of like cabin out in the middle of nowhere, where two writers may have had some turmoil in the past, which
Yeah.
causes this death to lead into a massive court case where people suspect the wife as being the killer.
Yeah, it's a did she do it movie, right? And
Yeah.
they really stick with that did she or didn't she do it the whole way through in a way that for some people will be like amazing because they'll be able to like get into arguments about it, and for some people it might be a little bit frustrating because they might want a clearer answer. I thought it was pretty great. But yeah, we talked about it before, and I'm sure it's going to continue to be in the discussion as people start assembling their best of the year lists. Although it
Definitely.
probably will fall short of mine, I guess pun
Uh,
intended.
eh. It's got a limited release right now, so it's getting a
Yeah,
big rollout, and we'll be discussing it more. And we had more thoughts earlier on in the live stream as well. But I think it's really solid. I think I'd root for her as a lead performance because I think they do a
oh
lot of
yeah,
really great stuff with her, especially with the way that the way she meshes in with the camera work. I thought the camera work was funny, but I'm actually coming more around to it the more that I think about it.
yeah.
I think
There's
it's
some
perfectly good.
moments that have almost like a behind the scenes of a news van
Succession
style
office
footage.
style
It's like
zoom in.
yeah, it's like the type of zoom where the camera is like trying to
Yeah.
find their next shot. It's really interesting, but
Uh-huh.
I mean, yeah, this is a really solid movie. So you've got it all the way down at number 5 on your best of the festival. That means you must have seen 4 pretty solid movies, for other pretty solid
Was it 10,
movies.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5? You're right. I do have it at 5. I guess I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I do have 4. Okay, so it's in my top 5. That's not
Yeah,
bad. That's top 5. That's top 5.
that's solid.
But I did have a couple of other ones that really stood out. Goodbye Julia was the first movie I saw at the fest in
Ooh,
terms of in-person screenings, and this is the submission for Sudan. I want to say it
nice.
is the story of two completely different women in Sudan, which again. I think this movie did the best job of kind of breaking down the politics without sitting you down and breaking down the politics. You see it through the characters. There are riots that are happening in the streets because the more fair-skinned people up north in North Sudan. Did you even know they were split? They
Uh,
feel they're getting infiltrated by the southern Sudanese who are darker. And there's riots on the streets and all these different things that are happening, and obviously the clashes of religions. And I didn't even realize it till halfway through the movie because I'm watching it subtitled. Different languages that they're all speaking. The main catalyst is that you have a couple who can't have children. So there's kind of some back and forth turmoil happening within their relationship, who one day decides to go out driving and hits a kid. And in hitting that child, the husband to this woman right here in red, Julia, chases after her, which again, the context of the political turmoil and the riots that have been happening leads an incident to happen that leaves her and her child without a father.
hmm.
And so the guilt in this woman has her take them, leads her to taking them in to become the maid without them even knowing that the only reason she's taking pity on them is because she's responsible for the father who is not there. This movie is expertly written. The performances in here are incredible. It does a fantastic job of not just talking about, the politics, like I said, but through these characters so that you can really feel it. But just different things in terms of how people approach their beliefs, their faith, their relationships. There are some fantastic lines in here about, can you forgive somebody if you can't reconcile? And one person brings that up for their storyline, and you realize, damn, you just said a line that could apply to 3 other characters. Somebody else will talk about how they approach the subject, and it's like, dang, and you can apply that and answer that over there. Dude, this is such a well-crafted, beautifully directed, from a new director as well. Shout out Mohamed Kordofani. I wanted to see more awards come this way. Just the way that they're able to handle all the subject matter was beautifully done. I would highly, highly recommend this one. This is one that I want to see higher up in the short list when it comes to the international Oscars. And I hope it gets a full release because it was a beautifully told story and really stood out with me throughout the rest of the fest. Goodbye, Julia.
Very interesting.
This next one, you just got the screener for, so I'm very curious your
Yeah.
thoughts on The Promised Land, which we missed out over in Toronto. This is, where's this man from? Denmark? Denmark submission, I want to
Yeah.
say. And it's about a guy who's technically a bastard. So when he went off to war and he comes back, he kind of wants to have his own land. and nobody really takes him seriously, and much less more seriously when he's like, I want a piece of land over there that no one's ever been able to do anything with, and I want to grow potatoes. It's a potato farming movie, and that definitely sounds very boring. I loved this movie. I thought his character and that dynamic of him feeling like the underdog while then working with the outsiders who need to help him because none of the higher up people want to give him the benefit of the doubt was beautifully told. There's some cliche moments, that old Spielberg trick of showing you something. There's one dealing with a stick that comes back to play later on in the movie. I'm a sucker. I don't know, man. I was really feeling the movie that day, and it hit me on all cylinders. I can see people, and I've heard people say that's pretty slow and maybe very cliche. Not that it's bad, but that they don't really love it. It just hit on all cylinders. I think it's beautifully shot as well as as they mix and match the terrain where he's working out there. That's just horrible, and just it's called Promised Land, but its original title is Bastarden, and this is a bastard land where he lives in. Like, it's just terrible compared to when he comes back home and they're living in royalty. They're living in like all this lavish lifestyle back in the day. I liked all the twists and turns in the script. I think Mods gives an incredible performance, and I personally would highly recommend it and hope that it makes it up on the short list when it comes to the end of the year for Denmark. A very good movie, and I'm very curious your thoughts once you catch the screener.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, obviously, it's
Oh no, Zach loved it so much. I think he dipped. But yeah, Promised Land is Denmark's submission. I think it's going to be a very interesting pick when it comes to award season, because when it comes to Denmark, this man's usually a shoo-in. You were saying?
no, yeah, we were talking about mods, but the film itself also sounds pretty interesting. Seems like a pretty like methodical kind of movie in terms of its pacing. I don't know if
Underdog.
there's a movie out there that you'd compare it to, just because like it doesn't necessarily sound serene the way a movie like Patterson that's also slow moving,
No.
right? It's something different.
Yeah, it's more like Minari, where it's
Yeah, I
just
was
like,
that's
just give me
another one I
this
was
land.
thinking when you were
Let me
talking
give
about
me
it.
this land and let me see what I could do. I know I'm like behind
Yeah.
a lot, and it's an uphill battle, but yeah, he's just doing everything that he possibly can to get there. So no, I really liked it. I thought it was a standout picture. Um, Getting into my top two, I have a movie that when I saw, I came straight back home and we were recording some stuff, and I'm like, Zach, I don't know if I could ever watch this movie again. This is the most depressing thing. Like, this is just no, nothing but it. It's a traumatic movie that almost doesn't even show you the trauma. The Zone of Interest, a film based off of a novel that supposedly doesn't even cover the novel at all. They pulled a Stanley Kubrick Shining with this and kind of just used it as a reference for the name. The name, as I just found out this morning, is the 40 kilometers around Auschwitz that they considered the Zone of Interest. And the movie follows the commander and his wife, who considers herself the queen, who live right outside. It comes from the guy who made Under the Skin, so this is a movie that you definitely need to see in a theater, because just like Under the Skin, Michael Levy returns to do the score. It opens with a minute of just that score, letting you know, as Zach put, we were having a discussion, putting you in the mode that this is a movie you need to listen to. Break down what you were mentioning from the sound designer.
Yeah, well, so at Q&A at the New York Film Festival, they were saying that the script that was they developed a script for this film, and they also developed a script of all the things that you don't see, that you just hear, and that script was as long as the actual shooting script for the film, and it ended up being this
That's crazy.
document that they worked off for the sound design. The sound design of this movie cost them about as much as it did to do the rest of this film, because
And
it
you
is
feel it.
really like immersive, transportive. You feel that whole like eerie atmosphere. I wrote in my review of it that while it is like a quiet movie, eerily it's never silent, and there's so much in those little bits of natural sound that they get there. You were mentioning that the movie opens with just sound. I think that's Jonathan Glazer's way of indicating to the audience that you're not going to get this whole story unless you're listening to it as intently as you watch it.
Yeah.
So I think it's a pretty remarkable film, and a really interesting way to approach a story like this.
Mm-hmm. I was telling you as well when I came home, like, I hope this doesn't get that traction, that pushback that Oppenheimer got, that Killers has been getting as well, because it's like, yeah, I mean, it is focusing on the Nazis, but it's not empathizing with them. And a lot of people don't realize this idea that humanizing a villain is because the humans are the villains. Like, that's what's putting you into the shoes of, or the boots, I should say, of these people who literally live right there. There are some compositions where you're following them in a garden, and then he decides to do this cut, and it's like he slaps the audience in the face, and you just see all of it right there. But you see none of it. It's still hidden in plain sight, and it's such a scary way to approach it. I saw it in a theater that I wouldn't consider the best audio, to have the best audio getup, and even then, it still resonated. So I would highly implore you to catch it in like a theater that's got the best surround sound, because that's how the story's being told.
Yeah, this is one where it's like, I mean, I don't know if it'll be in IMAX anywhere, but skip the IMAX. This is all about the Dolby. It's all about the mixing. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to catching the book so that we can have a longer discussion on it in the future. This poster right here is insane.
Yeah.
It's insane.
It really gets the dread and ominousness of the film across.
For sure. And just letting you know, like, this is not a Schindler's List. They are not pulling at any dramatic points at all. This is a movie where you're just sitting there going, like, we're just following these people, and you are led to make a lot of assumptions in their daily lives. You'll see two people interact, and you need to connect what happens after that scene. What precedes this one? Where did that character go? It's not holding your hand at all for any of it. I don't know if I want to rewatch this one again.
Yeah.
But I will say that ending, especially doubling it up with my recent watch of Killers of the Flower Moon. Holy smokes.
They have a lot in common. We'll get into that when we get into Killers of the Flower Moon, but there's definitely a lot in common there.
No, that ending has a lot to...
I feel like it'd be wrong to call any film that talks about like an atrocity like that melodramatic, but by comparison, this is like the least melodramatic. Like, there's no sensationalizing or like dramatic music that tells you like how sad this moment is. Like, there's the Mika Levy score, but it's done, the story is told so plainly and so dryly, which kind of only makes it that much more chilling.
Yeah. I mean, it's a drum movie. Like, they're just boring people.
Yeah.
They're just people who are just coming up with plans to make the killings more efficient. And they got some family problems, and the kid may be a general, but he doesn't look like he's smart enough to be it. You're just like following these, not just like regular foot soldiers, the guy. Like, it's an insanely unsettling movie, and even more unsettling if you end up capturing it with the correct mixing for it. But yeah. Crazy movie. I would highly recommend a movie that we've been bringing up in the past when mentioning this, The White Ribbon, which after the Q&A I realized it's the main guy from The White Ribbon, grown up, just a little older. So that's insane. A crazy double feature if you end up capturing these two together. The White Ribbon would definitely be one that resonated with me a lot. Just catch both of these. They're going to be insane watches. But don't go into the zone of interest thinking that that's the Saturday night movie with the boys. Nah, this is a thinking movie right there. Zone of Interest, coming out by A24.
Jeff saw Zone of Interest, Jeff from Carscast, our buddy, back in Toronto, and he was like, yeah, it was really hard to just like keep going about your day after.
It's an opening movie, I want to say, is what he saw.
Yeah, it was his first movie in Toronto.
Yeah, I don't see how you follow up with anything else there. But yeah, it feels like a cursed movie, I'm not going to lie. It feels haunted.
I described it to somebody as not a haunting movie, but a haunted movie. It really feels like full of ghosts.
They were sinning shooting this movie. There's just something. There's something about how they captured these people that was so evil. Yeah. But that is Zone of Interest, a movie that I know is going to top for a lot of people. But my pick is one that was a surprise selection that came out right at the end. Poor Things, the newest Yorgos Lanthimos movie. Floored me. Coming in here with the live take, with the live rating. I'm going to have to plug it in. 4.5. Dogtooth has been one of my favorite movies from this man. And I am not your average... The new Spider-Man movie is better than the last Spider-Man movie. I think that when I say that something is as good as what I feel was their best movie, that's me really coming out here and giving you the biggest endorsement that I could possibly give it. Poor Things may be better than Dogtooth. I don't think that he's reached this level like he has in any other movie. we have a whole review for it, so we kind of have a whole breakdown there. It follows Emma Stone, who kind of is like this experiment made by Willem Dafoe's character, who's this crazy scientist. He ends up inviting Rami Youssef, who plays his assistant. Emotions kind of unravel there. The older Bella Baxter gets, but then Bella Baxter decides to go on her own journey. What a great name, too, Bella Baxter. Incredible performance from Emma Stone. Incredible performance from Mark Ruffalo, though.
Yeah.
Probably my standout supporting. You had mentioned the breakdown of all of the supporting actors this year, and honestly, all the different just actresses and actor categories. I still have him at number one, even though De Niro's great. But damn, is it going to be such a tight race at the end of the year? I love this movie. In the review, you had broken down that you felt it was more mainstream. I feel like you didn't see it like as a bad thing, but you saw it as him kind of taking it away from his like quirkiness and zaniness. But I think it's him firing on all cylinders. It's almost like the Spielberg effect, where Spielberg is able to take these crazy concepts and the way he's able to make it mainstream is what allows him to be the big director that he is. I loved how he handled it here.
I don't want to say that it's like him changing his ways for a mainstream audience. I think it's him filtering his weird perspective in maybe a more palatable way, palatable package, I guess I'd say. Like it's still got all the strangeness and like examinations of the weird nuances of human behavior that you come to expect from Yorgos Lanthimos film, but I feel like we go on a journey that we can relate to with Bella more than we relate to a lot of his typical protagonists.
For sure, like Sacred Deer. There's
I don't relate to that dude at all.
No, there's a shot in Sacred Deer with a shotgun that it's like, you're just like making fun of the people who just bought a ticket to sit here.
Yeah.
Poor Things, I think, is definitely going to attract more people and hopefully ends up becoming the thing that's the gateway to a lot of his other movies. I'm going to get a copy of Dogtooth because Alina's never seen it. She saw the trailer to it. She goes, this looks insane. I'm like, yeah. And watching the trailer, she was comparing a lot of the things that one of the kids goes through to Poor Things. So I like how he's taken this kind of these reoccurring themes that he's had throughout a lot of his movies of ostracized people, and I think he knocked it out of the park with this one, man. She may be my favorite performance for lead actress right now. Definitely top 5 for just lead in general. Yeah. I cannot wait for this movie to come out. It is just beautiful, beautiful in every single way. Catch us in a theater. The production design is fantastic. The audio mixing is fantastic. It's raw, dude. Poor Things is my number one movie from the Chicago International Film Festival.
It's such a good time, and she is so incredible in it. I can't wait for more people to see it. I wish they hadn't delayed it, so I'd have a chance to see it again.
They delayed it?
Well, they delayed it like months ago. Like it was originally supposed to come out September 8th. It might have been on digital by now. Damn.
Oh, wow. That is definitely a delay. There was a lot of other movies that got delayed out there at the festival, such as Bike Riders, which I know got pushed because of SAG-AFTRA, which is supposed to be meeting this week as well. So we'll see how that comes out because a lot of these movies have those tentative December dates, but I don't know what they're going to be doing with them. But these were my picks, my honorable mentions, my top 10 from the Chicago International Film Festival. If you were able to attend, let me know your thoughts down below, what your favorite theater was. My dog did get really sick during it. Lady was pretty bad, which is why I ended up missing a lot of like Sweet Dreams. The Taste of Things screening that I would have watched was around that weekend when she got sick. I didn't get to go to the Gene Siskel, but if people were out there at the fest, how you compare it to the previous fest, what you thought was cool, if this was your first one, but definitely your picks. Anything that I missed, let me know.
And Lady's feeling better, right?
Lady's feeling so much better.
Everything's all okay. That's the most important thing.
Bro, I was so scared, man. It was insane. Yeah, you could not be sitting at a theater for these 3-hour-long movies when you have a sick dog at home, the way she was sick. But yeah, she was a lot better, and she was happy to see that Poor Things got the number 1 spot at the Chicago International Film Festival. So let us know your thoughts down below. Other than that, Zach, give a big shout out to the Intercutie patrons who allow these long old streams to go.
Yeah, big thanks to our patrons who are supporting the show for as little as $1 a month over on patreon.com/intercutpod. They are in the Academy tier: Tashar, Cademan, Connor, Josh, May, Ricky, Joe, Janicia, Tyler, and Benji. And then the producer level patrons are Yuden Veer and Toon. You too can become a patron and get access not just to these really fun mid-show shout-outs, but also to our monthly patron Google Hangouts. I think the next one we're going to be doing next week, October 30th, a little bit of a Halloween stream for the Inner Cuties. We also upload some episodes early, including all the Scorsese Tober look backs we've been doing, the Intercut Film Club stuff. So if you want a sneak peek of some episodes, chance to chat with us, your name featured on screen and read aloud by my soothing dulcet tones, all you got to do is head over to patreon.com/intercutpod to sign up to become a patron. And even if you don't want to give money or you can't give money, you can sign up to follow the show on Patreon, become a member, and get access to some updates, some written updates that are a good way to find out what we're doing in the upcoming months. The Intercutie patrons were the first people to know that we are doing the Scorsese
Eras Tour
videos.
Intercut edition.
Yeah. So want the latest news out of the pod, head over to patreon.com/intercut.
Wait, what did you say? What are we doing?
You can sign up on Patreon for free and just get access to the updates.
But what was the update? Did I get the update?
I told them I sent out here's Scorsese Tober, guys.
Oh, okay. I thought we picked the next director already. I'm like, wait, bro, wait.
Wait, do you want to do Fitcher Vember? I think we gotta figure this out.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
We've already
You're
done
seeing
the
The
brackets,
Killer
so we're
tonight.
caught up. I'm just seeing The Killer in 2 hours.
Ooh, exciting stuff.
But first, we have to talk Killers of the Flower Moon right afterwards.
We do.
We got to wrap it up. Picks for the week. This week, we have our picks that are for this week.
Yeah.
I'm going to start off with Silver Dollar Road. This is a movie that I was able to catch over at the Toronto International Film Festival. It's a documentary about land. You know, if we're talking a good companion piece to Killers of the Flower Moon, where people are like really hyper focused on that story, not realizing it's a story that ripples out and is representative of a lot of other stories. Silver Dollar Road would be that. It's playing on Amazon Prime, and it's a documentary about this family who owned this really good part of land that nobody wanted. And then, you know, some beachside stuff, and it looks like it could be really hot real estate. And the story that they go through with what their relatives had to deal with in terms of having all of the legal paperwork, but still getting screwed over and taunted. It's a crazy story. This is going to be the basis to an incredible feature film. I can guarantee you that. So catch it over on Amazon Prime, Silver Dollar Road. The next one that I have is one that we both saw, and it's Chile's Oscar submission, The Settlers. This is a movie that's takes a very artistic approach. Not even that artistic, just a very subtle, not breaking it down piece by piece, just letting you know, these are the guys who pretended to go expand fences for sheeps, when in reality they were setting the borders to Chile. And this is how they did it in the most violent way possible. It's very limited at the moment, but it's a movie that's got these really great, vast scenic scenes that I would highly recommend catching in a theater if you're intrigued for it. The Settlers.
Yeah, I mean, it's just also of the films we've gotten recently that sort of seek to document the brutality of colonial violence. This is one of the ones that's really lingered with me in how brutal and unfeeling it can be.
Yeah. Keeping with it, another TIFF recommendation would be the documentary Mr. Dress Up, The Magic of Make Believe. I was like, yo, this thing looks adorable, but this guy looks like, he looks like he's a Mr. Rogers type. You worked with Mr. Rogers, right? So he comes from Canada, which is why it was a big selection over there in Toronto. It is out on Amazon Prime, and it goes through his life story and all of the good things that he did. Look, call me old, bro. I cannot believe I'm having this as a recommendation. There is a new Frasier series that is out, and I'm not saying that the new take is like incredible, but it got me to go back to watch a couple of episodes from season 1. The only thing I know about Frasier is it playing on like what, B2 TV. I used to go collect comics, and my comic guy used to play Frasier all the time.
There you go.
Yo, those old episodes are funny. I must be getting old, but they had us cracking up in bed, bro. He's a funny dude. I know he's like the writer, producer, director, all of it. A lot of people forget that he's also Beast in the original X-Men movies. But Kelsey Grammer's that guy, dude, and he really had a lot of funny quips going on in those first seasons.
Yeah, I mean, it's a classic for a reason, right? One of the classic NBC sitcoms. I was a little bit concerned, though, that the reboot is not bringing his brother Niles back. I don't know if it's Frasier without David Hyde Pierce.
And that's what I felt when I went back to go see those old episodes. I was like,
Yeah.
this dynamic right here is crazy, man.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe he'll come back the way that the remake does it, or the reboot, because it's like a whole. It's different. Again, you know I'm always big about syndication. It is not connected to Frasier. It's its own installment as a reboot, but it's his brother's son, so his nephew is kind of taking the place, and not the same so far. But yeah, those old episodes are great. Wrapping my picks over here because we're going to have the shared one, obviously. I'm going to have Four Daughters, which I've mentioned as my top pick, out of Toronto, a crazy documentary that is looking at these sisters, two of which are still around, and two who aren't with them anymore, which is why they cast two actresses to play them in this documentary where the mother directs her own memories. Incredible, incredible, incredible. I'm going to keep recommending it throughout the year. I'm hoping that this one makes not just a documentary list, but the short list for international feature in general. But Zach,
Yeah, I'm hoping it opens in a theater near me because you've been recommending it since Toronto, so I'm excited to catch up with it.
You're going to dig it. Take it away, dude, with your biggest pick of the week. I know it's one that we share. I know it's a little violent for some people. But Onyx and the Fortuitous and Talisman of Souls. If you
know, the thing about writer-director Andrew Bowser is he's got a keen eye for internet comedy.
Let me keep it a buck, bro. Let me keep it a buck. Zach has beef with the director right now. They've been going at it. It's akin to Tupac and Biggie at the moment. It's getting out of hand, and I've been trying to make sure. I've been trying to make sure that things don't get out, because I think he's on the other coast. He feels like a Denver guy. I don't know if he's from Denver. He may have Talisman. But yo, my man's been doing this thing where in film school they tell you never respond to the critics, and I've always been like, screw that. Man, I'm gonna be like Uwe Boll if I ever direct a movie. Talk smack, and I'm gonna go out there like Xavier Dolan. But now I see that you may come out looking like this guy, and it's getting a little too much, man. Enjoy your movie. I was not as harsh as my fellow inner cutters here. They were being brutally honest. I'm gonna say one nice thing to the man. Really good production design and or production design. Production design was really good puppets and puppeteering. That was really good. But damn, bro, your story is not doing any favors when people are critiquing you for being a man baby, and then you acting like a man baby. You got Olivia Taylor-Dudley as like your love interest in the movie. You're good, bro. You premiered at Sundance. Zach, get at him.
Look, film and art in general are subjective mediums. There are lots of different opinions out there, and lots of them are valid for different reasons. If you think your taste in movies is similar to my taste in movies, this might be one of the worst films you ever see. It is the most painful form of cringe internet comedy extended to a unrelenting 110 minutes.
Ooh.
Like it doesn't even have the courtesy to be short. It goes on way too long, and I don't know if I will ever see a movie with a more annoying lead performance than the kind of nasal faux announcer voice that Bowser adopts for Onyx the Fortuitous. It is painful.
Zach logged into the Notion where we put our list, and he saw that I kind of took all his picks off and put Onyx the Fortuitous 5 times.
I laughed, but I also felt a little bit personally attacked.
Not as much as he has on that YouTube channel. Go check it out. The man's created better content for YouTube, I guess, than he did for the movie. So at least there's that. Yeah. But Zach, your real picks of the week, the first of which is getting 1, 2, 3, 4 thumbs up from us here on Intercut.
Let's do it. Yeah, let's talk a little more about Killers of the Flower Moon. It is a new Martin Scorsese movie. That alone should be enough to get you out of your seats.
What was those DMV? You saw that DMV boy?
Which one?
The podcast that Twitter decided these are nobodies, but if we can cut them out, We need
Yeah,
someone to yell out.
everybody's
And
new
thus,
favorite podcasters to make fun of whose
Y'all
favorite
could-
films are The Avengers and The Greatest Showman. Of course, we need to hear all of their opinions on films.
your
Yeah,
trip for the DMV.
provided you're not like those guys, you got to go see this. It's not
Wait,
like
do we
going
need
to
to
the
say
DMV.
something
It is-
stupid to get an in and out Twitter viral moment?
Killers of the Flower Moon. It's the most vitally important thing that you could do aside from getting your colonoscopy.
Where was the after credits?
Yeah. Where is the connection to the greater Scorsese verse?
We didn't even
I
get...
wanted Ray Liotta to show up.
There was no flowers on the moon. But it's good.
Yeah, it's great.
It's fantastic.
It's
we're going to be
great.
talking
Not
about
much
it.
more we can say.
Yeah,
But
we're
we
gonna be
will
talking
talk
about
about it. Yeah, we'll talk about it more after this too.
Yeah, immediately.
But look, if 3.5 hours and a movie theater sounds like way too much for you, the Criterion Channel has got the collection of Scorsese shorts available to stream, available to own if you're a physical media person. The early film school shorts that he made, as well as his documentary about his parents, Italian American.
Italian American is raw.
Available to stream. That one even is available on YouTube. I don't know if
Yes,
it's
it is.
legally there, but it is there. So
He was on Jimmy Kimmel, and Jimmy Kimmel said he saw it, and he goes, "Oh, you bought it?" He goes, "No, I saw it on YouTube." He goes, "Fair's fair."
yep.
I got
yep.
a great point to connect Italian American to Killers of the Flower Moon.
Oh,
People
yeah?
keep thinking he went woke. My man been at it.
Mm-hmm. What you don't agree with the notion that this is Martin Scorsese's first political film?
Bro, people think he's on Taxi Driver's side. They had
People
this
are-
man out there on I think it was like New York Times or whatever, recapping his movies, and he goes, and he's not good. Travis Bickle not good. I'm like, no, Marty, you made the movie. I know you're not a person to speak like that. They have him do an ending explains.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's trying to, help the people who don't understand his comments maybe understand them a little
He's
bit
re-releasing
more.
it as Badfellas, Zach.
Yeah. Oh man.
Dark Timeline.
Moving on from Martin Scorsese, we got some more picks that we can share with you. This one just got dumped pretty unceremoniously onto Peacock. I had no idea. But
Whoa.
If You Were the Last, a movie that I think we both enjoyed a bit, at least at South by Southwest. Maybe I enjoyed it more than you. A quirky comedy starring Anthony Mackie and Zoe Chow, about a pair of astronauts who think they've been lost in space forever. I think it's like so twee that you could choke on it, but they've also got some really fun dialogue in this movie, some really heartfelt and silly back and forths. I think the middle third of this movie is some of my favorite existential dramatic comedy I've seen in a little while. There's also some other stuff in there that's maybe a bit hokey, but for a movie that's out on Peacock, I think you could do a lot worse.
Perfect place to watch it.
Yeah. I'll give a shout out to Beyond Utopia, which is out in limited release. It'll hopefully be expanding into more theaters. So maybe just keep this one on your radar. One of the more interesting documentaries that we saw at Sundance this year, using hidden camera footage to document some people escaping from North Korea, but also trying to mine into the psychological sort of toll that living in a country like North Korea and then no longer being there takes on some of these people, and the de-brainwashing that they have to go through in certain scenarios. It's not necessarily the most groundbreaking look into North Korea out there, but it is fascinating nonetheless. So I'll give that one a shout as well. And then my last pick for the week is a movie I haven't had a chance to catch up with, but it'll be on Shudder on Friday, so I'm definitely going to catch it then. When Evil Lurks. I feel like aside from Talk to Me, I haven't been that pleased with a lot of the horror movies that came out this year, and I'm looking for that sick, sadistic, evil little movie out there that unceremoniously comes out and then people keep whispering its name to each other. Yeah. And I think we found it. I think it's When Evil Lurks. I don't know if you had a chance to catch up with it yet, but I'm hearing this is some fucked up movie.
when it was in theaters, it was right when Chicago had started, so I was trying to fit that in. I was like, okay, I got some time in between Paw Patrol or When Evil Lurks, right? And the times just they didn't coincide. But we've been getting a lot of people saying, "Yo, you're sleeping on this. You're sleeping on this." We're about to wake up this Friday. I'm looking forward to it. It was also a TIFF selection,
Yeah.
so
One of the Midnight Madness movies that I heard good buzz for, so I'm definitely looking forward to catching up with When Evil Lurks.
sounds very good. Recapping our picks for the week, I've got Silver Dollar, a documentary that I truly believe is going to be an Oscar-winning feature drama in the future, playing over on Amazon Prime. I have The Settlers, which is Chile's Oscar submission, definitely one that you want to catch up on the big screen. Mr. Dress Up, The Magic of Make Believe, a guy who is pretty much the Canadian Mr. Rogers, now playing over on Prime. Frasier, because I'm old now, and I am recommending the older seasons because they are funny, and I really like them. And of course, one of my favorite documentaries of the year, Four Daughters, which has a limited release. Zach?
Also recommending Killers of the Flower Moon. I think we're both recommending that one because
Thought you
it
were
is
really
a
gonna say
new
Onyx.
Martin Scorsese movie, and new Martin Scorsese movies worth paying attention to. Also worth
Always.
paying attention to some old Martin Scorsese movies. I'm recommending the Martin Scorsese shorts that are streaming on the Criterion channel, a good way to catch up with the beginnings of one of our most iconic filmmakers. Over on Peacock, I'm recommending If You Were the Last. It's twee, it's cute, it's kind of funny, and I think it's just like a good hang available to stream at home. Beyond Utopia is out in limited release, a fascinating look at North Korean people and what it's like to escape that country. But then my last pick is what I'm hoping is going to be the Halloween movie of choice, the evil sounding When Evil Lurks.
Nasty poster. Nasty poster. I remembered at South by, you and the director of If You Were the Last had the same sweater, that same rainbow sweater.
Yeah,
So y'all need to get an interview together.
I know we've got a similar taste in fashion. I don't know if that's
brothers
a
right there.
compliment or not, but it certainly is a thing.
It's a South by director.
It's
It's a
my
good pick.
people.
That's all for this week's show, though. You can follow more from me at LME Movies on all social media and over on YouTube at Let Me Explain. Zach, where can people find more from you?
I am at Zshevich across social media, and my videos are at Multiplex Show on TikTok or YouTube.
A reminder that you can listen to every episode of the Intercut podcast here on, this is on iTunes. You can listen on iTunes, on Anchor, on Spotify, whatever your favorite podcatcher is. And you can catch the live videos here on youtube.com where we go through all of the weekend must-watch picks. We've been talking about having a lot of these live streams be segmented into their own little parts because obviously, like with the tabs, and I'm very curious to see if everybody's browsers does this. Mine just updated on mobile. It's a completely new experience now for the way that all of my stuff appears. But since all of our lives go over on the live stream thing, it's a perfect way to cut up some VODs from this segment and post them up there. So let us know your thoughts on any recommendations that you have either here or in those independent videos. A big shout out to all the Intercuties who listen live, all the patrons, all the iTunes listeners who give us that 5-star review. Don't forget to leave us a comment, drop a like, follow the socials over at Intercut Pod. And until next time, keep watching movies and we may send you a friendship bracelet. And I expect that one.
Lanyard did it myself.